You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
So jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. So baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around. Make sure everybody around you know just how to treat you, girl. Keep picking up them pieces, girl. You should know that this is your world. Flexing with them features, girl. You're such an investment. This diamond don't come with a necklace. She come with bottled height. You put my music on, she gon' jump around like a soda and go. When I met her, she had told me she was heaven sent. I believe her cause I've been thinking about heaven since. Just to please you, what you see just to tease, dude. You gon' have to see through the flexing. I got you testing the taste of the best, and she not one to wreck with. Your girl say it on the ground, she speak it with her chest, and keep me on her mind cause my rhyme's too hectic. So check it, you texting, she next, and her weapon, her mental correction, your mental skill. Though you hold her up, I hold her down for real. So jump around like no one is around. If he try to hold you down, let him know who with a crown, then go make him settle down with another one. Cause tonight we gon' have some fun. Spin around, spin around, spin around, spin around. Pop it like a gun. I make you move through my teeth to your feet. And she don't play no games with the moves. You can see I got the mic on lock. You can't make her dance cause you can't MC. She pulled me close and said, baby, tell me what you wanna see. So jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. So baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around. I got things that's getting better for me. You need change that's getting better for you. We can't be together, but at least we can put pressure on it. Till the song ends, I'm gonna win. You dog her out, she gets it in. So baby, what you gonna do? Now she says she has no clue how. She stood you before, so what she gonna do now? So jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. So baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around for me, baby, jump around. Baby, jump around, baby, jump around.
Check, 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 yeah. Check, 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 yeah. Hey. I put my hands in motion. Non-fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice, trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. I say that there's no pressure, but you say the pressure's high. Center of chaos and I'm still like a nebula. She moving with me, but the turbulence is record high. I hold on to that body, watch me switch the gear to drive. You know how we keep it live. Too many niggas, no fear in sight. You feel that feeling? Yeah, that's your fear and fright. Push that shit down, you don't need it. Well, you might, if you niggas wanna live to see another night. Non-fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice, trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. I put my hands in motion. Non-fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice, trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. Caught dead in the middle of it. This that feeling when it's about time to preheat the oven. And if you love it, and really if you love it, drop a little something in the motherfucking bucket just because of the people undercover. We keep our message covered, even from each other. We think we know each other, don't even know I love her. And when it's time to ride high, I know that you my brother. I put my hands in motion. Non-fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice, trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. I put my hands in motion. Non-fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice, trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. Too cool, too cool, too cool. You can call it what you want it, baby. I've been on a mission, bigger than some dollars lately. Working lately, raise a baby, don't go crazy. Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Don't betray me. Number one, it's some more shit. I hold myself the closest. My sun goes up and down like I'm roller coasting. I'm over focused. I put my hands in motion. Now I'm fungible token. Now I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded. I put my hands in motion. Now I'm fungible token. I keep a baddie right here in her fashion on necrosis. The government caught notice trying to peep a nigga motive. They handed me $1 and it motherfucking folded.
You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Yeah.
Let's get it. What's going on, y'all? What's happening? Well, we out here. We are getting ready to have another conversation this morning about discernment. That's the theme this week. And this week, we're going to try to figure out if you can discern whether or not you are able, capable, or ready to join the music industry. So we're going to look at a few different topics, and I kind of wanted to get into a little bit about the preparation needed to get into the music industry, also what it means to actually be in the music industry versus just being a musician, right? And sometimes we think because we have like a social media profile, we're professionals, when in reality, having a social media profile is like having an ID today. So really what you want to start thinking about is, okay, if I'm getting into the music industry, what am I going to be getting from the music industry? What is it I'm going to be giving to the music industry? And then what is it that I expect to happen with the music industry? Like, are things going to stay the same? You know, the record labels and stuff like that. And so when we were looking yesterday at legacy acts like Katy Perry and stuff, we saw how there's a bit of a race for, I guess, understanding the trends and things like that, understanding technology and understanding what the fans are demanding and things like that, all in one go, on top of trying to be creative, on top of life and things like that, right? And then now we have to get into, amidst all these decisions you need to make, like who to work with, what's good music, what's a good business decision, and what's not. Now we got to figure out if you're even the type of person to handle all of these decisions, right? Are you the type of person built for this type of, I guess you can say, career path? You know, are you the person that's going to be doing this like a vehicle, like we see many people do, where they'll do music for 2-3 years and then suddenly they're in, like, I don't know, retail sales or something like that? Or are you a person that's in it for the long haul that plans on literally defining their career based around the music industry? So like I said, we're going to get into a few different topics, but I want to know if you guys are interested in this and things like this by hitting the like button. And also if you hit the subscribe button. The like button basically tells people that this video is dope and they should check it out too, or it's helpful. And then also the subscribe button helps you keep up with my latest videos. A lot of times I post like not infrequently, but you'll get some content that doesn't really have much to do with the consistency of this show. So you may get like me practicing, or you may get some fitness tips. I'm also doing a health journey and stuff like that. And so you'll see gym workouts. We'll be breaking down food recipes and stuff like that. We have concerts without sound, where I'll be breaking down how a lot of different musicians and bands and artists and venues perform live, but without the actual sound, which makes it kind of interesting, because then we can pull back a layer and see what a musician sees, right? And then I also will do content on the gaming channel, where you'll see me going crazy on like some nerdy Xbox gaming. We got Dead by Daylight, Halo, Overwatch, a bunch of stuff, right? And so we stream on Twitch for the gaming. We keep the videos there on the channel. Over here we have the music, and we have the business, and we have the health and food and fitness to help you be a dope musician. So as we get into the summer, May is here. This is May 1st. We got pretty much no more this year left. Like, the way I look at it, the year's done. It's over with. We already have 2027 right around the corner, right? But we have to really consider like what that means for us when we're going into the music industry. What's our expectations? And again, this is why the discernment conversation is important to have when we're having it, because now you can get into what you'll start seeing is the action phase of most musicians. You'll see people dropping albums, putting out more music, announcing shows and things like that, maybe introducing products and merch and stuff. But now with what we've all learned together on this show, we can look at it with the lens and say, okay, does this person know what they're doing, and will this actually work for what they're trying to do? Or we may look at it as consumers and say, okay, now we know how to find and invest in our favorite musicians and the best musicians. Or we can look at it as more of a producer aspect, where we can learn different tactics, maybe figure out who to collaborate with, or maybe meld and like marriage a whole bunch of different strategies and tactics together in order to make your campaign better or your product and music better. So let's get into it. We have our first video here, and we're going to crack down on the clips.
The average cost of going to a concert has nearly doubled in the last 10 years. And yet, for some venues, live music has been a notoriously hard business to make money from.
The majority of people are not making anything else apart from a living, and it's just being squeezed.
But Live Nation seems to have it figured out. It made $23 billion in 2024, not just by owning Ticketmaster, but by having a hand in nearly every corner of the industry.
And that is the part that we talked about when we were saying like the 360 deal for record labels and stuff like that. If you consider a new artist, and I think for many of us, when we think of a new artist, we usually think about a young one. But for me, I usually think of a new artist as like one that the market has not been introduced to yet. So you could be like a 30-year vet in terms of musicianship. But if like your state doesn't even know you have shows going on, then you're generally unknown, right? If people don't know your name amongst certain business meetings or I guess you can say opportunities for business, then it's like, I don't even know, right? So with a new artist, when you're signing them and you want to get them into the music industry and have them basically represent your label in a way, but also be of a product that's going to compete with everybody else because, you know, the fans have hard-earned cash that they want to spend. How do you polish this new artist to make it look like it can compete with other artists? Well, one way you can do that is you can skip the step where they have to actually develop the foundation of a brand, right? So like for me, I have merch, but it's not like DameSmiff.com merch, right? So what can happen is somebody could say, okay, instead of us doing the merch that you have available, we'll create the merch in-house, create the DameSmiff.com merch, and then at the same time, leverage, because they are actually producing the merchandise, they can leverage how much they want to make off of the merch. So they can negotiate, let's say 5%, 8%, 10%, 15, 30, whatever they can negotiate, right? And that depends on whatever you offer them. So if you're a new artist and they say, okay, we're going to advance you $1 million, and then a part of that $1 million is going to come from merch sales, and we want 45% of merch sales. Well, here's the thing. If you're a new artist and you hear the word $1 million, then 45% of merch sales doesn't really make sense to you. So you might say yes on the strength of the $1 million, or you might make make a yes on the strength of maybe merch sales won't be that much of the $1 million. So it'll be okay, right? And so if you don't know these things and know how these things will work in the long run, then it'll just make sense to sign the contract depending on your understanding. So now with what she's explaining here, if you have a record company that has a hand in your merch, has a hand in the ticket sales, and then also is teaming up with the venues and the ticket salesmen in order to get a cut there, where does that leave you as the musician when you don't have the leverage to negotiate higher prices or to negotiate these people to get their hands off of the pot, right? So what that'll then look like in reality, honestly, if you want to see what that looks like, you won't get the gig. A lot of times the venue will rather work with somebody that has a full package regardless of who's running it versus somebody who maybe is a band, doesn't have merch, but has like a few fans, or has all the fans in the world, but they aren't really getting fans that buy drinks because they're super fans, you know? So the record labels and the venues and really the tech companies with the ticket salesmen, they have a nice little economy going on for themselves in order to stay afloat based on just numbers alone, right? Culturally, we would like to think that when we go to a show and we pay a ticket and then we buy a t-shirt and then we go to the bar and get a drink, the artist is getting like a fat cut of most of that because we're here for them. But in reality, there is a lot of red tape going on in order for you to get that experience. So this is why I tell people who are trying to get into the music industry to say like, okay, if you're going to play an instrument, that's one thing. If you're going to be in a band, that's another thing. But if you're going to go on tour and like compete with other venues and other acts, then you're up against basically whose machine works better. That's what you're up against. You're not really up against who likes your dress, who plays a better instrument. You're not really up against that. It's when these people get booked, are the fans paying money? Are the fans satisfied? And are the fans actually getting the experience they desire? And that's pretty much it. If you can't consistently pull that off, then you won't get the gig. So what record labels have figured out is how to throw a show. They've mastered that, but then they've also commodified the ability to do it a la carte. So now you can say, oh, well, I'm a new artist and all I need is distribution, or I'm a new artist and all I need is merchandise production. You can try to negotiate that, but then the numbers have to make sense because they're going to ask you for something in return. And that's the part that you need to know.
Seems to have it figured out. It made $23 billion in 2024, not just by owning Ticketmaster, but by having a hand in nearly every corner of the industry.
This is the machine behind live events.
Live Nation's so-called Flywheel business model has fueled the company's rise by treating each of its.
So this is, they said, the Flywheel business model. So if we look at it, it says Live Nation business model, ticketing over there, concert and venues over there, sponsorships and advertising over there. Where in this model do you see an artist? Where in this model do you see a musician, a producer, an engineer, right? So the people on stage play a role, but it's not prioritized here, okay? So before we actually get into this, we're gonna jump right into this. I'm gonna ask Gemini to explain the Flywheel model, and then we'll let them break it down for themselves. So that way we can get different perspectives, but we need to know this in different ways. Gemini, so I'm looking at the Flywheel model as regards to the music industry's Live Nation company, ticketing, concert venues, and sponsorships. Could you briefly explain what that is and how that relates to musicians in general?
Think of it as a self-reinforcing cycle. Live Nation promotes concerts, sells tickets through Ticketmaster, owns or manages venues, and secures sponsorships. Each part feeds the others and brings in more revenue. For musicians, it means potentially reaching a massive audience and having a streamlined tour. But it can also make it hard to avoid partnering with them if they dominate so much of the market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So let's say, for example, if I'm an independent rock band and I want to do a show in Los Angeles, California, would it be more difficult for me to get a gig at a venue without presenting merchandise than it would be for a signed rock band in Los Angeles to do that with the full package?
Generally, yes. It could be trickier. Venues like knowing there's extra revenue potential from merch sales, and sometimes they even get a cut. But honestly, the most important thing for getting a gig, independent or signed, is your ability to pull a crowd in that specific area. If you can guarantee you'll bring people to the bar, that matters more than anything else. Were you thinking of specific venues in LA?
No, no specific venues. We're actually breaking down the flywheel model. So how has that been criticized lately?
Right, back to the flywheel itself. The main criticism is that it creates an unfair advantage, almost like a monopoly. By controlling so many aspects of the live music industry, from ticketing to the venues, critics say they're squeezing out competition, pushing up ticket prices, and limiting choices for both artists and fans. The Department of Justice has even taken legal action over these concerns. Anything specific you were curious about regarding those criticisms?
Well, before we get into any further questions regarding the flywheel model, I want to shift for a second for looking at this from the consumer's aspect. How are fans and the audiences being affected by the flywheel model?
From the fans' perspective, the most common issue is the high ticket prices and those confusing extra fees. Because Live Nation controls so much of the process, there's less competition to keep prices down. Fans also deal with exclusive ticketing platforms that can make getting popular show tickets really hard, sometimes forcing them to buy on secondary markets for way more. It essentially means fans have fewer options and often end up paying more for the same experience. Does that clarify things?
It does. And then I have one last question. When it comes to how the record labels have a relationship with the venues and the ticket salesmen, what does that relationship look like in regards to the benefits of an artist?
Record labels generally care about maximizing streams and sales, so they push for tours that create a lot of buzz and drive media attention. They negotiate with promoters and venues to make sure their artists get good slots and exposure, which can boost visibility and lead to more fans, benefiting the musician through increased popularity and other opportunities. Does that connect for you?
Yeah, it does. And I'll ask later. So, okay, we got a quick little rundown of the flywheel model and why it's being pretty controversial. Basically, all of the real estate that they have on the income streams is making it very difficult for people to either get access to these venues or get in on this as an independent. Because you got to think, Live Nation can't be the name for venues from the West Coast to the East Coast. Like, there has to be like some kind of like different setup of markets, right? And that's just in this country. So then you got to think like the symphonies in Japan, the orchestras in Germany, UK artists, all these different people that come over here. And it's like, there has to be a way for y'all to compete. That's what capitalism is.
Businesses like a cog in the machine that helps propel the whole business forward. But some, including the US government, are questioning whether it's monopolizing the industry.
There is more competition in the industry today than there ever has been.
If you don't work with them, there is great fear that they will destroy you.
So this is the executive director of National Independent Venue Association. And let's see what this lady
There is
wants.
more competition.
This is the head of global corporate affairs at Live Nation. So she's in defense of Live Nation or representation of them.
In the
and then
industry
he's in
today
representation
than there ever
of
has
independent
been.
venues.
If you don't work with them, there is great fear that they will destroy you.
This is the economics of Live Nation.
So she's saying that there's a lot of competition, meaning there are other people that can compete with Live Nation. She's saying that. And then he's saying that if you don't work with them, you will be eaten alive. Probably a metaphor for saying you will be swallowed up by the abundance of other venues that you cannot be booked for.
It used to be that you would go on tour to promote album sales. That entirely flipped. Now you put out music so that you can go on tour and sell tickets and merch.
How many of you listen to somebody's album because they did a concert? Like, really think about it for a second. And she's right, because I've only in my life have gotten a CD from an artist because I heard it live in front of me. I was like, oh man, this is cool. But then when you think about what she's saying, how many artists today are in the studio creating music with the hopes that you, I guess, would listen to the music? Like, they're going on tour, not even promoting album sales. They're going on tours just to promote ideas. So I don't know if fans really care about that part, but that is a very interesting flip.
It used to be that you would go on tour to promote album sales. That entirely flipped. Now you put out music so that you can go on tour and sell tickets and merchandise.
Behind the scenes of any tour are four main businesses: the artist, the promoter, the venue, and the ticketing platform.
So we already have four pillars of people, or I guess departments or agencies, communities, whatever you want to call this, that are involved in your experience as a fan.
Back in 2010, Live Nation merged with Ticketmaster, creating Live Nation Entertainment.
There was immediate backlash. This was the world's largest concert promoter teaming up with the largest purveyor of tickets.
Over the last 15 years, Live Nation has employed a flywheel business model to gain a stake in every major business in the live events industry.
The flywheel is something that executives at Live Nation have talked about publicly on investor calls for years. This has been something that investors have very much cheered on, and we've seen their stock go up and up over the years.
So notice how she's not saying fans, she's not saying artists, she's saying investors. So remember what we learned last week about the difference, right? An investor is not looking in cultural shifts and getting an agenda across and identifying with a group of people and relating with you. The investor is looking for a return on their investment. And it came at any cost, whether it was the artist, whether it's your minimum wage job, whether it's your demographic of people, all of that. And so you can see why for years they were advocating for this, because clearly it would make them more money.
But now it's something that the DOJ has identified specifically as problematic.
As part of its antitrust lawsuit, the U.S. Department of Justice included this graphic to illustrate.
Whoa, let's look at this graphic here. So make $2.9 billion in revenue and then reinvest the profits into the $18.8 billion generator, which also gets profits reinvested into it from the $1.1 billion revenue generator at the bottom there in the bottom cog.
How Live Nation can reinvest.
And that comes from ticketing, sponsorships, will all be reinvested into concerts and venues. That's crazy, because the way you get concerts and venues is by selling tickets and then showing sponsorships at said venues and concerts. For example, like merchandise, right? If you buy a t-shirt, who manufactures the t-shirts? If you buy like little makeup, little K-pop Demon Hunter kits, like who makes the makeup, right? And so everybody's eating, right? Everybody's getting a piece of the pie. And the part I want you to understand out of all of this is that you're not on this pie. Not one part of this says writer, songwriter, producer. Not one part of this. And so this is all tech companies, businessmen, real estate, and sales. And which is fine in terms of like business, but look at how it's kind of like it's not an ecosystem that benefits the ecosystem. Like it only benefits the people that are playing specifically this game. It'd be like if you made a Bitcoin and then you just swept the rug from under everybody that was investing in it just to get yourself all the money, right? Yes, everybody intentionally and consented to giving you money as an investor with the expectation to lose it, possibly, but you doing that outright really changes what it is we're looking at.
Profits from its high margin businesses into its lower margin businesses.
They are vertically integrated, and that allows them to take losses on their promotions and their shows because they have ticketing revenue that comes in. They have advertising deals that not a single independent venue or festival could ever even come close to touching.
Live Nation can get a lot of bang for its buck on sponsorships and advertising because it doesn't cost much to attach a brand's name to an event.
That could be something like, Verizon sets up special little mini stages around a festival, and anyone that has that Verizon ticker on their phone can pop up there and get an epic view for a few minutes.
Ooh-wee. Man. And we underestimate like what's really going on here. Like we're going to get into a little bit of how this production happens, which is why the Concerts Without Sound series is so important. But if you look here at what she's explaining, she's saying like it doesn't cost them much to put like a ticker, like a little computer screen that just says Verizon going across like you see at the baseball games. But then how like there's this sign here, there's probably like a couple salesmen in here, maybe a couple packages of phones, and then like 2 file cabinets worth of contracts waiting to get people signed up for Verizon. That creates traffic for this company to then make money. And this ecosystem lives within this flywheel model, right? And again, who gets a cut on this Verizon pie if I wrote the damn hit y'all are all here to see? Okay, so just keep that in mind as we have this conversation. You're not in this flywheel model. You're the artist, you're the musician. You play the guitar or the trumpet.
Ticketmaster takes more resources to operate, but also has impressive margins. Putting on concerts is even more expensive, especially for independent venues like this one.
The margins are so small. We just hope and pray that 90 people come in that like a drink and they spend £10 each, and then we're in profit, because the break-even point for currently for our shows is around £550, £600.
That's the break-even point. And like in contrast to what the numbers we just saw, you would think like, oh, this is easy. This is like nothing. But you got to think about like how many artists like yourself are going to throw a show that can consistently knock this out every week, right? I was able to do this in DC, and we did this for about 3 years straight. The most difficult part about this, like they said, was getting asses in the seats, was getting people to the show, selling tickets. Like you can tell people all the time. It's like any sales gig, like tell people what's going on, tell them why it's great and why they need to do this and how much of a benefit it is. But they have to be able to spend the money, like they got to afford it, but they also have to be able to have the time, and then they got to want to do it. Like they got to really be committed to dropping the money, right? So when I look at this number, I'm like, okay, that doesn't seem like a high number as far as like, if I wanted to get like a 30, 40 person show and each of them spends, he said like £10, and then hopefully get some merch, we could probably get each of them 30, 40 people to bring maybe a person, right? And we just have to push higher, higher and higher. Like obviously you want to get like 1,000 people in the room, but really think about it. Like 30, 40 people, you've asked about 1,000, you got 30, 40 people there, and they each spend about $10. So if you can charge them a reasonable price that they're all willing to pay, you can knock this number out, right? But how does this compete when Verizon's like, yeah, we're not going to sponsor your show because we're getting paid like $8K to just stand here and talk to like drunk teenagers at the Katy Perry show. You know what I'm saying? So it's you trying to figure out like what makes more sense. So most artists would look at this and then turn away because this wouldn't make much sense as far as like how much money they could make with all the glitz and glamour of the other venues and stuff like that. So that's why the Independent Venue Association guy was like, you get swallowed up pretty much. You won't be able to pay your bills because a lot of the artists that you'll be getting won't be backed, won't be sponsored, and probably won't have the business acumen at a certain level to want to do this because of how reasonable this is. Like it's not sexy like the investors were saying. Like this return on investment doesn't make you like get a hard on. This is really good numbers for a musician right here. Like if you wanted to just lock in on a town and make a name for yourself, this is really good, but it's not sexy. So now when you're considering that and you got to be like somebody, most artists would turn away from this.
Bermondsey Social Club does work with Live Nation.
Like this would be your venue right here. And I would love this because this would be dope because you can, talk to people and stuff like that. But eventually one of the people on this stage is going to culturally try to figure out, well, how can we do this bigger, better, and, brighter? But again, if you look at what we're looking at, these are instrumental musicians, which means they have to understand tech. They got to understand the landmark, the landscape, and they got to be able to compete with somebody who's going to get up there as like a Skrillex and just scream on a mic playing EDM. You got to think about that. That's the competition you're up against.
To book some up-and-coming artists. But Live Nation makes a lot of its money from stadium tours. It owns
stadium tours. You see what I'm saying?
Operates, has a stake in, or exclusively books shows for around 390 venues across more than 50 countries. From amphitheaters to the House of Blues. It also has a controlling stake in festivals like Lollapalooza and Bonnaroo.
And look at the massive scale of these shows, like these screens and all this stuff, like all of these different venues and these screens and these lights and the spacing, the security. They have to clear like land and like acres of land and shit like that for this. This is expensive. The speakers are like arcing up and stuff like that. Like you'll see projectors, you'll see lasers to help them find things. And you think about all the lanyards you get. You ever go to a concert and they give you wristbands, those cost. And then there's just general venue merch. There's bathrooms, there's plumbing, there's cleaning supplies, there's waste supplies like garbage bags, garbage trucks, boots. All these shit goes into just watching this person play the drums for an hour, right? How much of this money goes to the artist?
We are advocating as the independent live sector, it's to make sure that we can keep our doors open. Live Nation is lobbying so that they can make sure that their profit margin is large.
Live Nation said it's not lobbying to protect margins, and it supports many reforms that could actually reduce profits.
Okay, so the Independent Venue Association representative is saying that they're advocating to stay open, whereas Live Nation is advocating for their profit margins. Live Nation is saying as of last year, they're not lobbying to protect margins. In fact, many of the reforms they support, like giving artists the ability, giving artists the ability to cap resale, could actually reduce profits. We advocate for these reforms anyway because they make the ticketing experience better for fans and give artists more control. Okay, I want you to look at this from your perspective and tell me in the chat what you think they mean, what they're doing, and whether or not you believe what they're saying. And I'm going to tell you what I hear. Giving artists the ability to cap resale. Choosing that as the example shows that they're a bit tone deaf, which means that they don't really understand the culture of buying a ticket from the perspective of a fan for the artist. They understand buying a ticket from the perspective of a fan for the experience. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is because if it was up to me, you would not be able to resell my tickets. And the reason why is because the idea of reselling tickets is so that you can make profit over the existence of my show, right? And the only reason that works today is because of the capitalistic opportunity that provides. So if Beyonce comes to New Jersey and you're a plumber or you work textile or HVAC in New Jersey and your girl wants to get the tickets, you get the tickets and then something comes up and y'all can't go. Reselling those tickets earns you back your money and then also could get you a profit because of the urgency. Maybe you can charge an extra 150, 120, whatever it is to get a little bit more on top, right? What we're noticing and why this is a problem is that Live Nation knows that people are not doing resales of tickets in that context. They know that people are reselling tickets strictly for the profit. So if Beyonce comes to New Jersey, there's a guy who works HVAC who's going to buy 3 of these tickets and then resell 3 of these tickets, and he does not have a girlfriend. And so the point here is that they're offering a solution to something that is culturally not relevant to getting artists more money, because the idea of allowing that happening is really not to get artists more money. So then allowing us to cap that is not going to help us get more money. What's really going to get us more money is then if you change the model to then introduce how artists are going to be leveraged into the model. They didn't advocate for that within this sentence, but they may elsewhere. So I just want y'all to pay attention to how they're speaking about a lot of this when it comes to money, who gets money, and who has control over the money, okay?
In 2019, fans spent an average of $29 on extras at Live Nation amphitheaters. By 2024, it was more than $40.
Because we are only making money on the bar, youth culture not drinking as much, that has...
So you see how he's explaining culturally what's going on? That means he's tapped in. He's saying youth culture is not drinking as much. And really, honestly, thinking about youth culture not drinking as much, because we pretty much told the youth for many years drinking is bad. But what he's saying here is that if you guys started out spending $29, like think about it, you went to the illest local show of your life, you made out with the person you wanted to make out with because they were there and they were hot and they were talking about it at school, and you guys finally went to the show, you paid your ticket, right? At most you spent $30 extra. Now, and that was in 2019, fast forward, they're saying 40 plus. The reason this works is because consumers and fans are willing to do this for the experience, right? The other end of this is that the reason it works is because there are businesses and departments of people designed to understand how you spend your money. What is going to nudge you to spend that extra 80 cents, 60 cents, $1.20? And they figure that out. And so now when they offer you something like exclusivity, urgency, VIP access, personalization, and things like that, then it feels as though there's more value. And that's fine. If you agree with that, that's more value. You guys want to spend more money. But when you spend more money, does it go where you think it's going, right? And if that isn't going where you think it's going, would you still spend the money?
$9 on extras at Live Nation amphitheaters. By 2024, it was more than $40.
Because we are only making money on the bar, youth culture not drinking as much, that has a knock-on effect to the amount that we're taking.
Part of Live Nation's strategy has been to invest in ancillary businesses like Liquid Death, CVT Soft Serve, and Everything Legendary.
If you go to the Securities and Exchange Commission website and you look up Live Nation, there's an 11-page document that lists more than 425 subsidiary companies or organizations of Live.
And pay attention on the right. Those are the locations: Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Taiwan. Taiwan's going through some shit right now. Thailand, Turkey, Arab Emirates. So this is not like, oh no, they taking over California. Like, no, they're looking at world domination. Now, we can look at this one or two ways. Media has been known to be used as a way to propagate or to push an agenda, or to, let's say, I guess you could say push an agenda. We'll just keep it there, right? When you're thinking about like why someone would want a radio station, why someone would want a TV network, why someone would want access to syndicated television, right? There comes a conversation of control, power, authority, leverage, and resources, right? We talk about this all the time, right? Well, if you have a situation where you have a budding market, like let's say Malaysia or something like that, and then you decide, I'm going to start designing custom venues, independent large amphitheaters and things like that, and you want to get into that market, and then suddenly come across your desk is some kind of like pamphlet that's explaining a brand new construction site of a Live Nation amphitheater, right? Things change a little bit, right? Your local market has been shifted by a company from miles away, right? So now you have to think about, okay, well, whoa, if 2 Chainz and Katy Perry want to do a show in Malaysia, how is that going to affect my venue? Because here we have local Malaysian acts that have, instrumentation, maybe some singers, maybe some rock bands and things like that. And they don't have the backing of, a Live Nation or a Ticketmaster to bring in that traffic, to bring in a Verizon to stand outside of my venue and my amphitheater, to bring that traffic. I might consider joining the team, because the point here is to make money, not support your culture. If I had a soundboard, I'd go, bow, 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 bow. But that's why this looks the way it does, because we try to like make this like an evil like corporation thing, but really it's that the reality is that they offer such a value that it's undeniable that it nudges out competition. Like I said, if you were a little Malaysian independent venue trying to do this would look valuable to be a part of this. And then alongside having my venue upon this list, I would give them little subsidiary companies, like maybe little little recipes and dishes that they can serve at the venue with our name on there and stuff like that, logos, stickers, all that little shit we just saw with the liquid death water and shit like that. I would do that to make money. But you're not the person in this conversation, are you? You're the musician. You play the trumpet, you play guitar, and you probably, sing or something like that. So how would you get in on this pie? And then also, how would you negotiate? Like, would you just get a fraction of a penny like we negotiated for streaming? Or would you actually try to get some like double-digit percentage out of this?
Nation.
These are just more spokes of the flywheel. It's getting its tentacles into every piece of the live events business. In the case of Liquid Death, this is a company that they not only invested in, but then...
Look at that billboard. That billboard, just again, Concerts with Sound is the series you want to check out. This billboard is sitting on top of what looks like a brick and mortar like venue that has food and drinks, where they're gonna just like, there's a little Bud Light sign. So like generally products come in and out, different kinds of things like that. But this is a digitized billboard where they can just put up a video and an image really quick. Boom, right? How much do you think it costs to get, let's say, your band's logo on that billboard? Now, whatever number you popped in your head, whether it was 3 digits, 4 digits, or 5 digits, even 6 digits, just know that the venue has a hand in that billboard being up there, along with the ticket salesman, along with the promoters have a hand in the profits that billboard brings. Okay. Again, the artist is not here. They're non-existent. Even Bud Light down there is making a little bit of money on this venue. So just keep that in mind.
We're able to make the exclusive water provider at many of its venues.
Live Nation is able to increase its profit margins on concerts by also selling things like VIP ticket packages, parking,
exclusivity, VIP access. These are the things I just got done talking about.
phone chargers, and more.
Fucking phone chargers. I wouldn't even bring a phone if I knew that was if I knew you were gonna charge me for my phone, I wouldn't even bring it. And the reason they probably do this is because they know you're trying to make content, which again is a tech company thing, which keeps the phone companies involved, which keeps the charger companies in the business, which keeps the chip companies in business, which has nothing the fuck to do with music.
You think about when you would go to shows and you get a kind of warm beer and be standing on a sticky floor. There's a long way to go to kind of give an elevated experience for the fans that want it.
Now, the venues are nothing without artists on the stage and promoters to bring in the fans.
Honestly, just the artists. Just the artists. We did a good amount of promotion on our own without promoters. We're going to look into this soon, but A Tribe Called Quest is one of the groups that I look towards when it comes to like navigating the music industry, because they kind of explain it in their music, but just looking at their decisions and like how they've had interviews and stuff like that, you don't need a promoter. A promoter is kind of built in. Okay. There's benefits to a promoter, a really, really good promoter, but you don't need a promoter.
Managers are often the most important part of an artist's day-to-day business.
Live Nation has its own management agency called Artist Nation.
They have their own management agency. Oh my God. I have to slow this down because she can speed through this and most average listeners wouldn't catch what she just said. So you have a flywheel model here. We saw all the pieces to it, right? They're also getting a situation where, again, I use the little young girl who's in her TikTok social media account playing the guitar in her room. If she wants to get a show, she can hire them to manage her, to get on their shows, to get them tickets, to sell their water. What point of this deal does she get to negotiate any of the money that's in this circle?
It's also invested in other agencies like Jay-Z's Rock Nation and even an influencer talent agency. Live Nation's promotion business has grown by acquiring or investing in independent promoters around the world.
The amount of hours it takes to promote it, get the artwork done. That's
actually a
talent
good
agency. Live Nation's promotion business has grown by acquiring or investing in independent promoters around the world.
The amount
that previous scene was very expensive with the crowd of people, but this is also another thing too. Like they have to hire employees. A part of this too is that you don't know what direction Live Nation is defending this from, whether they're defending the ecosystem of people that they've built this upon on stilts, saying like, hey, you guys will be in the music industry, you guys can work at the biggest concerts and venues and nothing will be fine and you can make a career out of this, only just to find out that they're monopolizing the industry and then this is going to fall apart. But there is a like human aspect of this. Like that dude in the vest, he's important. He's got like a little lanyard that costs money. They're sending out, you know, little pamphlets on the ground, on the table there that they're signing. Everybody's got their phone QR codes. There's data that has to be transferred from these phones and stuff like that. Again, nothing to do with musicians. Nothing at all.
The amount of hours it takes to promote it, get the artwork done, changes, speak to the artist, and then all that for a return isn't really there. So you need your Live Nations to be able to do it.
And that's what my point was with the Malaysian venue. You need a Live Nation to be able to do this.
Jay-Z's Rock Nation.
To promote it, get the artwork done, changes, speak to the artist, and then all that for a return isn't really there. So you need your Live Nations to be able to do it.
What we have done is really built the best touring team in the industry. You know, none of this would happen without all the folks that grind it out behind the scenes and on.
And she's making that angle right now, and she's a nice lady, so I don't want to make it seem like she's the reason for this. She's a representative, so she's doing her job, but she's making that angle right now where the tour team is the best, which means they probably are offering jobs, education, and skills to a certain group of people that wouldn't have access without their existence. So now we have to argue for the workers of the venues and things like that, which doesn't downplay what they do, but it still doesn't include the conversation about the songwriters and musicians who are the existence, or whose existence causes all of this.
On tour, that's not an easy life.
It'd be like, just to make it religious for a second, it'd be like if you had like a religious deity you praised, and like every time you had something good in your life, you gave praise to something else. That's kind of what I keep seeing here.
Style by any means.
According to Pollstar, Live Nation is by far the largest global concert promoter today, selling $7.5 billion worth of tickets in 2024, which includes its acquisition of Ocesa, a Mexican concert promoter.
Mexican concert promoter. World domination.
Live Nation estimates its global ticket revenue is higher, at more than $10 billion.
And you guys know how big Daddy Yankee is, and how big reggaeton is, and Bad Bunny and all these people and stuff like that. Like, yes, they see what you see too. The difference is you're waiting for the new track, and they're trying to tell those artists where they're gonna perform.
Because Live Nation has this Ticketmaster unit, which is essentially a cash cow, they are able to offer a lot of money to artists to buy out their entire tour.
There it is. There it is. And if an artist needs the money, wants the money, or values the money, they'll take it. And again, you as fans, you're just going to have to deal with the higher ticket price. You're going to have to deal with going to the specific venues and all that stuff like that. You will just have to deal with that. Musicians, they just got to figure out, well, who's going to buy their, product. And then the investors are just waiting on the investment.
They can do is route a tour through buildings that Ticketmaster has exclusive ticketing contracts with.
And that's where Live Nation's ticketing business comes in.
Ticketmaster was the pioneer and is still the dominant player in this thing called exclusive ticketing contracts. This is when they go to venues of all sizes, clubs, theaters, arenas, amphitheaters, and they become the exclusive ticketing provider for that venue. The wink, wink, nod, nod is that if you choose Ticketmaster as your ticketing provider, you are more likely to have Live Nation shows coming through the door.
Live Nation said artists and their team decide where to play based on what's best for their fans and their shows. Ticketing revenue for Live Nation has more than doubled since the merger in 2010. At the same time, the average ticket prices for a North American tour have also nearly doubled.
Resale is the number one thing that impacts ticket prices.
Okay, so she said that out her face. She said that out her face, which means she knows it. So you guys giving us a cap on ticket resale prices benefits us how?
Scalpers are not going to stop coming after that.
Scalpers are not going to stop. So what should you do? Ban the scalping.
Unless there are some real rules and regulations getting in their way.
Like what kind of rule or regulation would you recommend?
Ticketmaster has its own resale platform as well, which competes with
They have their own resale platform called StubHub.
companies like StubHub and SeatGeek. Live Nation says it's proud to do resale differently because it gives artists the option to use Ticketmaster's face value exchange to cap resale prices.
They Klarna'd your tickets. So where you thought you was gonna pay $100, you paying $120 off interest. That's funny.
We also, as a society, kind of crucify artists for their front row prices when, you know, you could compare that to courtside at a basketball game in the same building. And
She's smiling because I think she's explaining what she knows. The part that bothers me about her explanation right now is that she's not saying it's a problem. She's saying it's a phenomena we have to deal with. When it's not. It's not. I want you to think of any other industry where this works, where this makes sense. Like culturally, what she's trying to do is make scalping kind of like tipping. But if culturally no one likes tipping, then you have to adjust for that, right? You can't keep just saying, well, maybe we should add like gratuity and more fees and stuff like that. We'll just call that expensive. Like, I don't know what this is. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know in terms of like her understanding of what she's saying is intentional or if it's just her doing her job. But for her to speak like this makes me think she either doesn't understand the issue from the perspective of musicians and fans, but she does understand it from the perspective of business. And it's tone deaf in the sense that, yes, we know scalpers exist. Would you scalp your favorite artist? Like, I just want you to think about that for a second. All right. So like, let's remove artist and remove the word scalper. This is the part that I struggle with this because she's a successful woman who's supposed to be older than us and a representative of a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company. And musicians don't ask these questions to her face. Like I wish the Wall Street Journal journalists would have asked her to her face, which I hope they do in the next 14 seconds. But what I would have said is, so let's think about your mom. Your mom cooks dinner, right? And the things it took for your mom to cook dinner were like, she needed to know how to cook. She needed to know what ingredients to buy. And then she needed to know what to serve you so you can get a nutritious meal. Out of all of that, would you then take the meal your mom cooked and then resell it to somebody else for double or triple the price and then not give your mom the money?
their front row prices when, you know, you could compare that to courtside at a basketball game in the same building, and that sports ticket is 5 if not 10x what the concert ticket is.
5 or 10x the concert ticket. Yes, we know.
StubHub told the Journal it's always been clear that Ticketmaster's priority isn't fans, it's profits.
That's what I just said.
While they tout their face value exchanges, their control of 80% of all ticketing, nearly 1/3 of the resale market, and billions in resale profits tell a different story.
And that's my point. Like, either she knows that part or she does not know that part. And it's either she knows that part and just said what she said out her face to that camera, or she does not know that part and said what she said out her face to that camera. Nice lady, but we need to understand what we're looking at here.
And SeatGeek said resale operates best when fans aren't locked into a single platform.
It is not a simple task to track $1 of spending on a concert ticket.
But Anne did just that.
It really shows Live Nation's versatility in creating deals that not only work for the artist, but really benefit Live Nation and squeeze the maximum benefit from its versatility in creating deals that not only...
So who makes money from your spending at an arena concert? Money spent and where it went. So if you spend $100, 98% or $98 goes to the artist, and I guess a tiny bit of it goes to merch. This chart is kind of hard to read. The promoter gets 10, but if you spend $25 fee, hold on, let me get a calculator. I guess this is all the price in total broken down. So 100 for the ticket, 25 for the fee, 25 to place your car in park. You're going to eat for $100, you fatty. And then you're going to buy a $50 wristband from J. Cole. Okay. So you spend about $295. That's the total of that left side there. That's the money spent. So then it'll say $98 of that will go to the artist, 10 for the promoter, 5 for the ticketer, which is Ticketmaster, 150 for the venue because they offer the venue fee, parking, and then they serve you food and alcohol. And then $32 for the merchandiser, because remember, a lot of these artists don't make their own merch. They don't have a t-shirt press in their studio. So all of that happens. How many of you thought the artist would have been making the most money out of this chart? Because you got to remember, the venue is Live Nation. The venue isn't like the dude who was saying he's independent, the independent, I can't remember the name, the bald white man, him. How many of you thought the artist was getting that 150 and then everybody else get bust down the other way?
Work for the artist, but really benefit Live Nation and squeeze the maximum benefit from any corner of the industry.
This is how Live Nation breaks down the cost of a hypothetical concert ticket.
A lot of times when we did our tickets and shows, when I was doing shows in DC, we ran into this issue too. Like, a lot of venues didn't want to work with us because we had like very easy ticket breakdowns. Like, look, you pay for a ticket and you get your little cut because you got the venue. And usually what we'll do is let the bar and the venue keep all the money for themselves. So like, if people want to buy food, they keep that. We just get the tickets because we were a small act and we wanted to get more people in the venue. So our focus was just get sales. Get ticket sales. And if the people get in there to help the venue out, we encourage them to buy food, buy drinks, tip the waiters, do all this stuff so they could have the full experience. And then the venue could have, you know, kind of like an independent representation of business too. So we can't say, oh man, the food was bad because we limited the menu or something. No. It's a full venue. They do whatever they want. We just get your asses in the door, right? They didn't like that. Well, most didn't like that. We had a few venues that really, really loved that model because they had really good food and really good business. But a lot of them didn't really like that because then eventually you started to get into the Live Nation conversation where it was like they wanted sponsorships and they wanted to get a little bit more going on. And it was like, okay, well, in order to get independent musicians to do more work, you have to then offer systems, right? You can't just say get more tickets. Like, that's not how this works. Like, you got to, if we still got to do our business side of things, you got to still do your business sides of things, and we got to develop systems so that we can be more beneficial and grow. We can't just demand things. And so Live Nation solved that for them, where they were like, okay, the venues don't even have to sell tickets. The venues don't even have to manage artists. The venues don't have to think about relationships with the artists. They'll just have to have all the infrastructure there and the software and resources that we give them, and then we're good. And we just make money hand over hand. And so they're looking at $100 face dollar ticket with $30 fee. So $130 ticket, $65 goes to the artist, $28 goes to the shared show cost, $7 for the promoter, $23 for the venue, and $7 for the ticketing company.
Of course, they own the ticket company, but
they own the ticket company, so they make that back.
They might also own the promoter, the
They own
venue,
that too.
and could even manage the artist.
Damn. Oh, I forgot about the artist management. So yeah, break it down too. The artist that gets this $65, your manager's taking 10% of that. The management company, they get 10% of that. So now you're getting like 54. You get like, well, really like 57. You're not getting no more money than that. On a $130 ticket, you're getting that much money. Now, mind you, all of that money that they get back is going to be reinvested back into themselves, not reinvested into the artist. This is why the conversation from musicians has to happen. Again, very nice lady representing Live Nation, but if she knows this and said what she said, that's crazy.
I think it's important to say that every dollar that an artist gets from us or from Live Nation, they absolutely deserve. But there is a really, really important thing to remember, which is if those artists ultimately choose Live Nation all the time and don't choose us, there's not going to be a place for artists to go other than.
And that's the point. Kind of like with I was saying about Apple and Spotify and stuff like that. Like, where do you get your music today? Like, you used to go to FYE. Sometimes you used to just kind of have like a local CD store or a record store, and you used to have to kind of like look at the album picture and read the liner notes and be like, oh, I know this writer, this might be good, and listen to it. And maybe they have a little station where you can get like little samples, a quick little 10 seconds or 2 minutes of it, right? Today, the place you get your music isn't even real. Like, you just open your phone and then some album pops up and goes, yo, new La Russell. And then you click it and then you play it and then you go, I like it or I didn't like it. And then that's music today. That's music purchasing. You didn't really spend any money or anything. You bought a monthly subscription just to get that experience every day or every moment, every hour. I don't know where people would go get music outside of that looks different and that is popular, that many people are actually doing, that's going to compete with that. So he's saying the same for buying tickets. if you're an artist and you want to perform at a show, if Live Nation has the biggest venues, the amphitheaters, has all the people, all the cool people, and the biggest fireworks, and then you go to a local venue and they're offering you like mood lighting, you're gonna really think like, I'm gonna go with the bigger splash over here.
In an arena or a Live Nation venue. If those artists ultimately all choose Live Nation all the time and don't choose us, there's not gonna be a place for artists to go other than an arena or a Live Nation venue or a corporate venue that's owned by a multinational conglomerate, because we won't be here.
I mean, if someone coming along.
And him saying we won't be here means that they won't be able to pay the bills and rent to stay afloat, right? Similar to how Walmart changed how grocery stores look to us, right? I just went to Walmart and like, it's a giant warehouse full of everything. Whereas you would used to have a store for every department, right? And now what it does help you do is it cuts down, I guess you could say, taxes on multiple purchases, but it does lower the competition, meaning like if I need clothes, groceries, pharmacy, and home appliances, as well as auto work, I can get it all in this warehouse. Whereas those used to be separate businesses. So those separate businesses that aren't in that warehouse, they still have to pay their bills. They still have to pay their property tax. They still have to keep their lights afloat, market, and then try to pull the traffic from Walmart into their doors and then get you to buy something and then leave a good review on Google and then word of mouth, get more people to promote to them. More so, if not at the same level of a Walmart, to stay in competition. So what he's saying is eventually, if we don't look at things the way he's explaining it, the smaller venues would have to either submit to joining this game of being a part of this Live Nation monopoly, or they would be phased out or turned into something else where it's maybe not a music venue. It's just a bar now, because there's no point in selling music tickets. Like, business is still going to be business, but it's not going to be an option for artists.
To me in 5 years' time, when I've had enough of it after 15 years, and goes, here's a big bag of carrots, do you want it? Then there might be a different scenario, but for now I'm always going to be independent.
Yeah, and he basically explained it right there.
Flywheel business model helped fuel Live Nation's rise to become the most powerful company in live entertainment. Now, with the DOJ lawsuit underway, could it become its downfall?
Everything that they claim to have an issue with, like, there's not really anything in that we're precious about protecting. There's a lot of stuff they claim we do that we don't. But ultimately, you know, we're out there competing every day for venue deals, for artist deals. And so, no, I would say we kind of keep doing what we're doing.
She has a very particular way of wording things, that of which makes her job very, very good. She does her job very well. She said they're competing for venues. When we talk about competition here, what do you think that looks like for a company like Live Nation? Do you think that looks like the resume that they have? Do you think it looks like the amount of control that they have? Like, let's say if another ticketing company comes along to your venue and is like, hey, we want to control the ticketing that you have here, and we offer you, let's say, $3,000 a week and Chameleonaire residency. And then Live Nation comes along and is like, we got Sabrina Carpenter and we can bring you $18,000 a week. Which one you working with? So again, for her to know this information, like I would expect her to know, and then to say what she's saying, makes it seem like she either does know what she's talking about or she doesn't, and she's regurgitating another person's information or studying the information from only one perspective, with the bias of working for this company. Because again, giving us a cap on resale doesn't stop the scalper. She said it out her face. So it's one thing. And then also the conversation about how much of a ticket goes to the artist has been a controversial thing for like 30 years. So I don't know if these people know that and they're saying what they're saying, or they don't know that and they're saying what they're saying. So let me know in the comments what you think. But let's get into the next clip here.
What's going on, y'all? This is Lecrae, and this is the right way and the wrong way to get into the music industry.
All right, LaCrizzle, let's get it. How many of you have heard of Lecrae? You guys like Lecrae?
All right, so I'm sure y'all have heard many pieces of advice from the likes of, I don't know, Diddy or Jay-Z or anybody, Master P. Forget all that. They wrong. This is the right way, okay? No, but sincerely, I really don't know what they have said. I just know what I know. And this is what I know. First of all, The wrong way to get into the music industry is by spamming people's DMs.
Yeah, we've all done that. I've done that.
The DM is like the lottery, okay?
The reason most people will do that because it's a sales tactic. It's a numbers option. And the reason why he's saying it doesn't work is because of the word spam. So I'll give you, before he even gives a tip, I'll give you how to do that better. What you want to do is, instead of spamming people's DMs, you want to actually initiate conversations in people's DMs. Like if you notice your friend maybe went on vacation and, you know, he's bought like a new car or something, like comment on that and then maybe DM him and say, hey man, I got, you know, some new music going on. Maybe you should check it out in your new car. Something like that, and that'll initiate the conversation. What he's saying is the terrible part is what people do is like copy and paste, like new album drop, here's the link, new album drop, here's the link, new album drop, here's the link, and it's like that feels like a commercial than like a genuine human connection. Like we were talking about with the AI situation. Like you want people to think that they're talking to a person and feel that they're talking to a person and actually know that they're talking to a person.
Spam your favorite artist DM or record labels DMs with your song or your SoundCloud link. It's like you got a better chance of winning the Powerball. I'm just being honest with you. You know how many DMs pop up in the inbox? I mean, I just think of myself. All I have is like 2 million followers. Think of the people that you may be DMing with 30 million followers. Like, do you seriously think they're going to see yours and then take the time to listen and then research and find your contact information? No, they're not. It could happen, but it would be so rare. I mean, it would be so rare. I think your odds of walking down the street, getting hit by a Walmart truck, surviving and being able to sue them for $40 million are a little bit better than spamming the DMs of the people
That's so
that
specific.
you're trying to get a hold of. Just my 2 cents. The right way is to network laterally. When I say network laterally, a lot of people try to network up, right? Like you want to go meet Kanye or Dame Dash or I don't know, whoever, Drake, and you're trying to network up. But you got to think about it realistically. What does Drake want to do with you right now? Like what would benefit him in like connecting with you? And honestly, if we're honest with ourselves, there's probably not much that you could say, oh, this is what I could offer Drake relationally, financially, you know, whatever it may be. So you want to network laterally and start networking with people who are on the same kind of wavelength as you are. And maybe as they rise, now you know somebody who's in that ranks. Maybe you've been networking with other artists and producers and future managers and engineers who get to work with some of these amazing artists at some point in time in their career. Well, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna say, I have a friend named so-and-so, you should check out their music. Now
the key thing about what he's pointing out too is what we talked about discerning who to work with, right? When he's saying network laterally, how do you know who to network with? So the trajectory he's presenting as potential, I'll give you a little deeper layer into what he's saying. There is certain things you should look for in your network that look like benefit, that look like assets, not liabilities, right? And so, for example, people have their personal lifestyles, right? Like Lecrae here, he can be an amazing musician, he can be dope, but then behind closed doors, he smells gym socks or something. He does something weird. Maybe he picks his boogers or something, right? Does it really matter to what he's going to bring as far as value to maybe your business relationship or even your friendship, right? So you have to be able to weigh those options. So something like, let's say, a moralistic difference, a religious difference, and even lifestyle choices could play a role in that, right? But then there are people in the world who are able to look past some of those things or all of those things in order to get what they want. And this is where it can be kind of difficult for artists because artists like to use their base instincts, their taught sensibilities, or their own understanding to figure out who they like to work with. And I'll give you an example on different perspectives. Like, let's say you're in a friend group right now and your friends all are like hanging out online and you guys are cool. You probably don't know nothing that they do in their personal life, right? But then let's say somebody comes along and says, hey, you guys are really cool. I think one of you has a real talent in, let's say, content creation, and then offers them a deal. And a part of that deal is that they make content for them to make money, and then they also can be able to monetize all the content that they make. Now, when you hang out with your friends, the conversation changes from hanging out with your friends to how this is going to help you fulfill your contract, right? Because the reason you were approached was for what you love to do, right? And that's what makes it difficult. So if like you love to sing and you love to dance, or if you love to make content with your friends or whatever it is, right? And then suddenly it becomes a job for you, and suddenly it becomes your profession, your career, then the things that your friends do may not align directly. So your friends might have kids. Your friends might drink alcohol. Your friends might do drugs on the side. Your friends might be lazy. Your friends might have an apathetic, self-deprecating attitude, and they're not really a go-getter. Maybe your friend has a closed-minded perspective where something as exposing, like maybe trying something new or learning something new or experiencing something different, is negative to them. And so now you have to deal with, well, should this person be in my network? And then you'll have to really question whether or not that's a decision you like. If you like making decisions like this, because this is pretty much what he's explaining as far as the right and wrong ways to get into the music industry. So like you can be working with a guitar player who's really, really dope, but he's always late. Always late.
That is a much better way of getting said label, artist, whoever, to listen to your music, because at that point in time, they're gonna trust the voice of this person that they're connected to. I was telling my man Flex, who now is on my management team, back when he was my assistant, he wanted to kind of network with some people in the film world. And I said, start networking with their assistants. You know, the producers and directors probably don't see much of a benefit in that relationship unless they want to mentor you. So we started networking with some of these assistants, and guess what? These assistants became producers and managers, and over the years, now they're the people in power and in control, and he's got connections and relationships with them because he networked laterally.
What's up, y'all? This is me, Lecrae. Y'all want to go behind the scenes with me? Y'all want to hear the real conversations, the pain, the hurt, the struggle, all the truth being told and the tea being spilled? Then y'all need to hit that link below. Check out my Patreon page. It's going down.
Another no-no is recording like 10 songs and not letting anyone hear them with a subjective ear, and then sending those songs to anybody who you want to put you on.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. Like the Rick Rubin logic of like do whatever you want, like create for yourself thing really works when you're not considering that. But there are a group of musicians who I'd like to call the employed musicians. They're musicians who are looking to be signed, looking for placements, looking for opportunities based on their music. They're not really creating because they just want to get this thing out their head. They're creating because it creates an engine for them. It's a vehicle or an engine within a vehicle that allows them to make more money, get more opportunity, more branding, more visibility, right? And so that kind of musician is going to be a musician. Yes, you will need criticism, definitely more ears. This is why they have writing teams and things like that, because they're, you know, designing and structuring sound in a way that's going to give a desired result. If you're just trying to, let's say, write a rap verse or something like that, and it's like real personal or something, you don't really have to do this. It's better to do this with somebody who's musically inclined. Like if you don't feel that you're musically inclined and you're not really sure if this is going to sound good to the general public, I would do that no matter what. But if you go to school for music and you know what a song is and things like that, you can trust your gut for most things if you follow the basics. It just gets into a weird area where you know you're innovating. Like if you know you're innovating, then it's best to bounce these ideas off of somebody.
Like if you don't know for a fact these songs are amazing, don't let people hear them yet. Like I'm not saying don't make the songs. Sure, you got to make them, but you got to get them tweaked. And if you don't have friends in your community or your life or your world to say, yo, this ain't it, then you're gonna be putting out songs
Lil Russell
that are subpar. You know how many subpar songs are in existence tons, because people don't take the time to hear real words of advice. I'll never forget, shout out to my man Otis, God bless his soul, who listened to one of my first demos and said, it's trash, yo. He told me it was trash to my face. Friends tell friends when their music is trash, okay? And it's time to start telling your homeboys they can't rap. Take the time to really work on your craft, work on the song, work on the rhyme scheme, the pattern, the chorus,
the vocabulary he's using right now. This is stuff you learn in school. So like rhyme scheme, patterns, similes, and all this stuff, like all that language stuff, music theory stuff like chorus, bridges, turnarounds, fermatas, rests, measures, all these words and stuff like that. You usually are getting a formal education. If not, you picked up a book to learn this, or some like formal meaning someone sat you down and explained this to you. So what I want you to highlight here too, and keep in mind, is that this is the separating difference between people who are going to know what they're doing in the music industry and the people who are actually going to be in the music industry trying to just get on, right? So if you know all of this stuff as far as like how to structure a song and stuff like that, it's easier to get to the point to where criticism is like light. Like for me, I haven't had nobody tell me my music is trash. So a part of that is because I know how to make a song, right? If I had no clue, but I really wanted to make a song, then there's a learning curve. But now that I know how, it's easier for me to get to the point where people will understand it's a song and understand that it's easy to listen to. So once I get to that point, that's one thing. What he's explaining is that now that you get to that point, there's like polish you have to put on top, right? There's different ways you say a word. There's different emotions that certain keys and tones present and things like that. And you'll understand that the more you make music, the more you present music to people, and then the more you study people's reactions to your music.
the vocals, whatever it may be, and then allow people to hear it, like people around, just general consumers, not your grandma, not your mom. They love everything you do. You can.
That's why when you see my music or hear my music, when you hear my music, it's just throughout shit that I do. So that way I have more opportunity and we'll get more ears. Like you said, your parents and your family and your girlfriend, your wife, they're never going to they'll rarely tell you you're trash. And so you want to get it from people that don't know you and have no reason to tell you you're good other than you actually being good. And it's a fair indicator to tell you that you're on the right track. Even if it's something that like a lot of people too, they're kind of reasonable, right? Even if it's not their cup of tea, it's not their kind of music, they can still understand that you're making good music in a general sense. Like if I'm not a rock person, but I like rock music. You play rock music around me, I can understand why it's a good rock song and I can appreciate it for what it is. So if you ask me to critique it, I can critique it from that perspective. A rock super fan is going to know way more than me. So then they would be, a person that you would want to get criticism from if you're trying to compete on whatever level it is. But what you want is both. You want somebody who's not really interested in it to say, okay, that's a good song. And then somebody who is super interested in it to say, that's a good song. Then you really know you have a good song.
Beat on some pans and they'll think it's amazing. You gotta let some subjective ears hear it, some critical people hear it, and take their advice seriously. Don't get your feelings all hurt. Oh, you just don't know good music when you hear it. Stop it. Stop it. Just take some constructive criticism and get better at what you do. All right, so those are a couple little nuggets on the right way and the wrong way to get into the music industry. That's pretty
dope. And I think he broke down a lot of it in like the surface level way. So I was able to give you a little bit more of the deep dive of it. But that's pretty good. I think most of it, though, is going to be down to like you said, relationships and networking and things like that. And you also working on your craft. Just doing that constantly, you'll be fine. Now, when we get into like the whole Ticketmaster business side of things, that's got little to do with music. That's why I explained that part to where you being a musician probably matters to musicians. But, for the most part, you need to know everything about business as well as what he just explained. So let's get into our third clip of the morning. Let's get it. What we got here?
Lady Gaga has been in the music industry for more than a decade and has been killing the game every time she steps on stage. Her singles Just Dance and Born This Way were pivotal in the world of pop and electronic dance hits. One can even go as far to say as Gaga was one of the world's most successful debut artists in this century so far. Can anyone even remember a time when Gaga didn't exist? Probably not, because her popularity has been so consistent. Anyone that doesn't know her past can say that Gaga's fame just happened, possibly out of thin air.
That's kind of how I felt, because I didn't know about her. I was like in maybe middle school, college or something like that. Not middle school, high school or college, like something like that. When she came out, she's a good musician, but when she first came out, her style of music was not my cup of tea. I was not into that shit. I was not into the rah-ahs and all that. I was not here for that. It wasn't until she started to really hone in on her singing that made me interested into it. But for me personally, this happens a lot. Like when the Migos first came out, there was too much yelling for me to listen to them, until you peel back the yelling to realize they're actually talking about a lot of stories and stuff like that. Currency is another one. Him rapping in like that one tone and not being precisely on beat used to frustrate me, until like you start to understand more why that happens and how he started picking more beats that kind of fit that flavor. And so it's a thing that what I call all the time is that you have to invest in your artists that you like. Like if you find somebody and they land in front of you and you don't really like it, just remember why you don't like it, and then you can be able to see if the artist is going to take that criticism and change it, right? A lot of rappers, they'll just be stuck in a rut and they'll just do the same thing, so they won't really change, and that's annoying. But somebody like Lady Gaga, she was able to flip the script, at least for me. Like that beginning part of her career where she just popped up, like she said, and was popular, I was not you couldn't sell me on her. I was like, no, bro, no.
Like many young artists. But this isn't the case. You have to know all the struggles, the put downs, and everything she went through to become the Lady Gaga we have in our world today. Before she was the influential, award-winning, iconic Lady Gaga, she was Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta.
Goddamn.
Stephanie, born on March 28th of 1986 at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, to Cynthia Louise, or Cindy Bissett.
Are we doxing her? like I feel low-key that's like real intrusive. Like if somebody did that shit to me, I would not, and I don't know this person, that's crazy.
And Joseph Germanotta. Both her parents have Italian ancestry as well as some French-Canadian roots.
Like all of this stuff doesn't matter to a musician. That's why I don't know why we need to know all this.
Pop culture genealogist Chris Child found that Stephanie and Madonna, yes, the Madonna, are ninth cousins once removed, dating back to the
Why do we know this?
French farmers who came to Quebec in the 1600s. But let's get back to the century at hand. Stephanie lived with her first-generation Italian-American parents and her younger sister, Natalie, in a duplex apartment on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. She grew up as Catholic and had become very open about her religion and devotion to God, both through her lyrics and through her interviews. At just 3 years old, Stephanie learned how to play piano, and by 5, she was proficient, and even knew how to create songs by ear. Seeing her daughter excel, the Germanottas enrolled Stephanie in a creative arts camp, and she attended.
That's smart. That's actually very smart, and that's kind of why I wanted to look at this. I wanted to figure out how Lady Gaga became what she was. So she learned piano at like 3 and 5, right? Which is really, really good because it gets you to understand, like, to visualize notes, to be able to hear notes, and then the piano is kind of like the general. I guess you can say measuring stick we use for tones and stuff like that. So it's a good way to kind of like figure out music early on. That drumming is a good one. And stringed instruments are good because stringed instruments, you have to actually feel the tone. Brass, not so much, because you can hit certain notes with certain fingerings and stuff, and it changes stuff. But if you can use the measuring stick that we all use, the piano, or if you can actually feel the tone of music and things like that from like stringed instruments, you'll have a better understanding of music going on. That's why bass players are usually really, really good musicians and writers, and obviously piano players.
Strasberg Theater and Film Institute.
Oh yeah, and her getting into dance by her parents is a very smart move. That again, if you have the intention of your child being a musician, getting them formal education is important. If you don't have the intention of them being a professional musician, them liking an instrument is not a scholarship.
Knew how to create songs by ear. Seeing her daughter excel, the Germanottas enrolled Stephanie in a creative arts camp, and she attended the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute for 10 years.
10 years. So already by the time she's like 20, she already has more experience than many adults getting into the game.
From the age of 11 years old, Stephanie went to Covenant of the Sacred Heart. She ended up landing lead roles as Adelaide in Guys and Dolls and Philia in A Funny Thing Happened on a...
So, okay, this is another thing too. I think musicians don't really take into consideration. You ever seen a guitar player at the bar or something like that, and he just has no stage presence, or like a singer and they got no stage presence? Her going through acting school, especially getting lead roles, really helps with that, because you learn how to express yourself, you learn how to react to the crowd, and you learn how to basically control a stage, right? Working with other people on stage, working with the basically the stage hands, and understanding how a show works technically, like from the production side. So that's a good experience to get young.
Way to the forum. At 14 years old, she was already performing at open mics and jazz bars.
Okay, 14 years old, open mics at bars. We've seen this before, right? So this is where, honestly, her career probably took a pivot, or had a fork in the road, because this is where most musicians, and I'm using her as an example because she's a success story, but this is where most musicians either make or break their career, right here. She has all the experience to be basically a dominant, independent force, but at the age of 14, you can't legally consent to most things in business. So now you have to have a head on your shoulders and an environment and a network here that's going to be protective of you. Okay. So a lot of 14-year-olds, it'd be like 14, 16 and like 18-year-olds that'll be in these bars playing music and stuff like that. And they are in the weirdest situations and circumstances of all kinds of varieties, that of which won't help them thrive. So her parents leading her there is probably a good thing. Most people get here because they need the money. And so their being talented isn't going to carry them through this. It's their character that's going to carry them through this. So now you'll have a situation where, on a bad side of this, she could meet the wrong boyfriend, the wrong manager. She could get addicted to drugs. She could wind up sneaking in, getting alcohol. She could maybe not get interested. Maybe she could be a victim of some kind of crime or something like that. But her being 14 in this situation is what makes it so volatile and so problematic, right? Because she can't consent to things. She can't basically represent herself. She would need her parents' consistent supervision through all of this, right? And that's the part that artists don't really understand, because now she has all the skills and talent, and she's able to technically work under the age of 18. And so she's doing it. But the problem is that her work is from her own leverage. So if her parents decided to take control of this, like let's say a Britney Spears or a Michael Jackson, they have all the right to, because she's 14. So ideally you would want your teenage music student to stay a student, just for the ramifications of the business decisions they may come across. Like, some dude can come across her and then say, wow, you're a really good singer, let me pay you a large sum of money so that way you can sing at my club. And that would sound great to a 14-year-old. But because she probably had a lot of good people around her in her network, they helped her walk, or at least supervised her through this. Just keep that in mind when you see young musicians and 14, 16-year-olds on TikTok and social media, and little rappers and people in the bars like her. They're teenagers. They can't consent. So a lot of the things that they're going to be doing have to be done with basically very, very, very gentle care, if you want to protect them, if you really care about them.
With her mom acting as her chaperone, of course.
With her mom acting as her chaperone. Great. See, this is perfect. Great. So, because now you're down to, if your mom is a good person, if your mom is business savvy, if your mom can handle music industry sleaziness and people and how they view women in the industry and stuff like that. If your mom has a strong head on her shoulders, she can protect her daughter. And if her mom has the protection of basically the things that we expect her to have in this situation, then this will work out. But in reality, the general situation is that this 14-year-old girl, if it wasn't Lady Gaga with her mom supervising her, would have just been on the street with a voice of gold, and somebody would have exploited her like Live Nation.
In 2003, at 17 years old, she was one of 20 people worldwide to have received an early acceptance into the Collaborative Arts Project 21.
Okay, that's crazy. I think the reason we don't know this kind of stuff is because we don't really blast this out for music's sake. So I'm gonna actually start covering stuff like that more, so that way we get more notoriety. But that would lead me to see how she became Lady Gaga if I had known that. I had never known that. I'm learning this in real time.
in the Tisch School of the Arts at New York University. The project, commonly referred to as CAP 21, is a professional musical theater training school and off-Broadway theater company where...
And a lot of people, when they think of dance, when they think of art and they think of theater, they don't take it this serious. They think like it's just some girl in a leotard dancing around to a boombox on the floor. But if you really have a kid, like a girl that's in dance right now, I need you to consider the levels of formal education she's expected to have to perform on a stage with, let's say, like a Japanese orchestra, or to perform on stage with a Lady Gaga. It's way bigger than Tim's booty shaking, or like Megan Thee Stallion turning around, or Tyla or something. Like it's dance is way bigger than swaying your hips. It's way bigger than twerking. It's way bigger than ballet. It's way bigger than all of that. You can take dance to a point to where you can almost shape governments. But the issue is that we have a surface level thinking where we just want to look pretty. We want to look cool. A lot of male dancers just want to have the data and the performance acumen on their resume. But you can really influence people through the dance community.
Lots of stars have their roots, such as Anne Hathaway and Kristen Bell. In 2005, she dropped out of school after only 3 semesters at NYU, wanting to pursue music as a career. And
now I wonder why that happened. It took her 3 semesters. I'm trying to think. 3 semesters is like barely any time. I'm gonna guess the reason why she did that is probably similar to how I felt in college. She probably saw how in college college is really about like getting you ready for the career market, right? And the way they do that is they have to go through a lot of prerequisites. She probably got so sick of them first freshman year prerequisites, especially if you're in New York City and you've been gigging since 14 and you're trying to, that probably looked useless to a young woman. Now she's probably like sees the value in it, but yeah, at the time she was probably like, this is dumb. I could just go get the money.
Become a star. After dropping out of school, her father made a deal that he would cover rent for a few months, but then she had to pull through on her own. She moved from her NYU...
Shout out dad. Dad and mom really held her down. We need to... They doxed them a little bit, but we do need to interview Lady Gaga's parents. Like, as successful as she is, like, everybody want to shit on Michael Jackson's daddy, but these are some good parents right here. Like, shout out to dad. He didn't say, you piece of shit, you dropped out of school. He was like, look, all right, cool, here's what we're gonna do.
Apartment on the Lower East Side. She performed at clubs in New York City with her band.
And then she got the work. She didn't take her parents for granted. Dope.
The Stephanie Germanotta Band, also known as SGB, that she'd started with some friends while she was going to NYU. She was on a mission to get a deal before her dad's cutoff date on her rent, which was set to expire in March of 2016, on Stephanie's 20th birthday. But 1 week before the cutoff date, her life completely changed forever. The SBG performed at the Cutting Room near Midtown Manhattan. It was...
Now you got to think too. I think the biggest reason her dad gave her a cutoff limit was because he had to give her the reality that most musicians are going to face when they try to do what she's doing, is that you can't keep funding a dream. Like, you got to make that shit real. Like, it has to become something. Otherwise you will be homeless. And he put that, I don't know if he, had that deep, hard argument conversation with her, but the point was that if she didn't go out and gig, New York City would have ate her alive. She would have been fine in like North Carolina singing like this. She went down to Nashville, she'd have been straight. But because she wanted to sit in New York City with probably like $2,000 rent, with like, look, she's playing on a Steinway and Sons piano. It's like, all right, lady, if you want to do this, then you got to like fight for your spot.
It was there that she met Wendy Starland, who was a talent scout. Starland was working with producer Rob.
If you ever seen the movie Whiplash, you kind of get what Lady Gaga is going through at that moment.
Sorry, on some tracks. Rob was known for his success with R&B hits for Destiny's Child and Will Smith. He was interested in finding a female singer to front a band, and the female singer would end up being Stephanie Germanotta, although with one small change. No band this time. Rob would often sing Queen's Radio Gaga whenever Stephanie would walk into his recording studio, and thus the Lady Gaga moniker was born.
Oh, okay.
Now as Lady
that's funny. I hate that song. I hate that song, Radio Gaga.
Gaga, she held a showcase where she played Beautiful, Dirty, Rich, a song about her friends from NYU asking their dads for money. She was then invited to the record label Island Def Jam Music Group, and this is where Antonio L.A. Reid, the CEO.
L.A. Reid, he's actually, I think, attributed to bringing melodic music to, I guess you can say, mainstream hip hop and like pop culture and stuff like that. He basically pushed for people to like make your choruses like really stand out and like boom, like this is the chorus. Like he kind of brought that to the game.
CEO of the company called Gaga a star. Not long after, in the fall of 2006, she signed a deal with Island Def Jam, which unfortunately only lasted a few months before she was dropped from the label. This was one of the only moments in her life that Gaga thought she might not become a star that she was meant to be.
I wonder why.
In a New York Magazine article from 2010, she was quoted saying, "I went back to my apartment on the Lower East Side and I was so depressed. That's when I started the real devotion to my music and art."
So it's already built in her to be successful in music. Like she said, she was depressed. To say that, if it were to be true, it'd have been likely she would have gotten to an addiction, said, fuck it, I'm gonna just go get married. She would have just went to work at a grocery store or left New York whole and just went to be a regular person, and we would have never known her name. But because she was passionate about being in the music industry, amidst all of that was against her, like a parent, she decided to do it anyway.
Rob Fusari and Gaga ended up dating from May 2006 to January of 2007. After Rob, she fell in love with a drummer, Luke Carl, who was also the manager at St. Jerome's, a rock bar near the Lower East Side. There, Gaga ended up meeting Lady Starlight, who was also a performer. The two started performing together in venues across the city, and Starlight was the one who influenced Gaga to incorporate more burlesque elements into her shows. Eventually, Gaga's look was no longer the leggings and sweatshirts that sometimes exposed one shoulder. She was performing on a stage in her underwear, sometimes even lighting her G-string on fire.
So, how much of that has to do with music, right? So she mentioned burlesque, right? And burlesque is really a form of dance that's really for showgirls and things like that. The controversy behind that decision comes from the historical context of burlesque, not the sexuality of women. And I think we always get that part confused because, like, for example, when you see geishas, when you see call girls, when you see Betty Boop and stuff like that, there's a historical context to why those women are representing what they're representing. We're not gonna get into that today, but the context there is why it creates a controversy, because you got to remember Lady Gaga, when she started out, she was a 5-year-old piano learning girl who became a dance student, who then became a piano playing singer in New York City as a college student. At what point do we suggest to this student to then get into burlesque? And how she did this, though it was beneficial for her, was through a parasocial relationship. This was not advisory from any leadership. She got dropped from her label the previous year. So when we're talking about the decisions you have to make as a musician, even Lady Gaga is going to be pressed with some really hard decisions as, should I take my clothes off in front of these strangers and set my underwear on fire? Okay, so just remember, as successful as she is, she still had to make this decision and figure this out, okay? Now, if it was up to me and probably you, no, she wouldn't have to do that for us to, go to her shows. But the woman she was talking to told her or suggested to her to try and do it. Now, why she decided to do it, I don't know. We'd have to know that conversation. But I just want you to remember that when we see women on stage and they start sexualizing themselves and what feels like at random, just remember that there's a historical context to what they choose to represent. Not that they sexualize themselves. Everybody does that. But how they try to sexualize themselves and what they represent.
Gaga was taking things to the next level and making herself an original. Although Lady Starlight had helped her form more of who she was, it was Andy Warhol who helped her shape the star. Eventually, because Andy was among her major influences, Gaga started the House of Gaga, a collective of creative people to help her brand similar in style to Warhol's Factory. The House was a personal creative team that's been responsible for creating most of the clothing, props, stage sets, and makeup, basically all of the visuals, for Gaga's performances.
So she basically handpicked the people that's going to help design her brand, her look, her aesthetic, which is smart because now you have the creative control, but creative control in the sense of you're working with people you want to work with.
It's comprised of artists, clothing designers, stage designers, and sound artists. 2007 was a whirlwind for Gaga's career. Gaga and Starlight ended up having their own show called Lady Gaga and Starlight Revue. It was a pop burlesque show that paid tribute to the icons and musics of the 70s.
So, and that's the historical context that I was talking about there, is that they did this show to kind of pay an homage to 70s stars, right? My personal belief is to never do that. If you're going to pay tribute to something, it's cool to like put a little bar in your rap song, maybe have a little nod in the visuals, but to base your entire performance off of something like that, I would never do that. And I can see why this would eventually fizzle out because it's not based on something original. Now, it's not a bad thing to do. Like they probably did it. It paid the bills. It got some shows booked. But in the end, you're not building that. That's not something you're in control of.
Gaga and Starlight ended up having their own show called Lady Gaga and Starlight Revue. It was a pop burlesque show that paid tribute to the icons and musics of the 70s. They also ended up opening up for glam rockers known as semi-precious weapons. Even though Gaga and Rob were no longer together, he was still looking out for her career.
Why, Rob?
Spring of 2007, his friend Vincent Herbert landed a deal with Interscope Geffen A&M Records to sign new artists under a joint label, Streamline Records label.
What's up with all these labels? What's up with all these labels?
Recall, Gaga was in Los Angeles to meet with Jimmy Iovine, the head of Interscope.
Ivine.
After listening to a few of Gaga's songs, he said, "Let's try this." Herbert sent Gaga to Lollapalooza Music Festival that summer, where she performed with Starlight. Before the platinum blonde Gaga was born, her hair was long and black, and she usually sported bangs. Apparently, someone in the audience at Lollapalooza said she looked a lot like Amy Winehouse, so she was immediately told by Vincent to dye her hair to differentiate her and become recognizable.
You see how that like doesn't matter to music, and like these are the things that are making decisions for her career. Fans think she looks like somebody, so dye your hair. The girl is a Cap 21 contender. I don't know why we're worried about her hair color and whether, again, as a woman, she has to deal with this. So it's up to her if she wants to deal with this.
She was signed with Interscope. She also got a deal with Sony ATV Music Publishing, which can be credited to an internship she had at the famous music publishing years ago. After Jody Gerson signed her publishing deal, Gaga started writing music for big stars, such as Fergie, Britney Spears, the Pussycat Dolls, and New Kids on the Block. Whenever she was asked if it was hard for her to be creating music for others, but not necessarily making it for herself yet, she said it wasn't. Gaga said to The Independent in 2009, "I got real joy from hearing Britney Spears sing my melodies. As much as I can sit here and talk about art, there's still something quite remarkable about writing a song when you're 20 and hearing a pop superstar sing it." Eventually, Akon ended up being a big factor in her break. He convinced Jimmy to let Gaga sign to his Con Live distribution record label.
Con Live, that's funny.
At the same time that she was writing songs for some of the big names out in the music industry, she was working on songs of her own. She worked with Red One, a Moroccan-Swedish international record producer and executive. All the tracks on Gaga's first album, The Fame, were written during their collaboration when she flew to
I never knew that.
LA to grind it out, and it only took them 1 week. Let's just say they must have been inspired. Martin Kirsenbaum, an American songwriter, wrote 4 songs on the album. In a Billboard article from 2009, he said that Gaga is very focused and very fast. She doesn't like to sit around and waste time.
Do you know why she's very focused and very fast? It's because she's been a professional musician since 14 years old. So when you see these artists that are in the studio and it takes them forever to come out with an album, or it takes them forever to sit down and write a song, even if it's writing a song is not easy, right? But I'm just saying, like, to get your part of the song done, when it takes them forever to do that, that means they lack the education. They don't know how to do it. If you know how to make a sandwich, why would it take you long to do it?
When we tracked the Fame album, she sang everything in one take and spent about 5 hours on the harmonies.
See? Because she knew what she wanted. Like, you can sing it in one take because you have it in your head and you've probably been practicing it and you know what studio time is. She was born in the 80s, like the late 80s. So the harmonies is more so, that's where the cooking happens. That's where you can figure out where things are going, where things are leading tones and all that stuff. Like, this is like easy, basic, elementary stuff when I read it, but this is put in this video as if it's like, whoa, she did everything in one take and worked real hard on the harmonies. It just goes to show the level of work that people are not putting in the studio. Like, when Jay-Z said he went in there and didn't do he would one take stuff, is because he practiced, y'all. You practice. When you're not in the studio, you practice. Like, you practice. I don't know why is this difficult to understand?
After Gaga and Martin collaborated on the album for only 1 week, Gaga signed to Martin's own record label, which is also under Interscope, called Cherry Tree Records, which he created back in 2004. By 2008, Gaga had moved to Los Angeles to be able to work on completing her debut album. In the meantime, her love life was on the rocks. Gaga and Luke would no longer be together the day that Gaga's Just Dance music video was shot. She finally left him after he doubted that she would make it big, and she vowed that she would.
Okay, Lady Gaga, you're showing that your relationship choices aren't that smart here, because like, her personal life and her career life is blending, and it seems like she's getting into relationships with people that are beneficial to her career and not her personal life, which is things that people do, but I'm observing that.
In 2004. By 2008, Gaga had moved to Los Angeles to be able to work on completing her debut album. In the meantime, her love life was on the rocks. Gaga and Luke would no longer be together the day that Gaga's Just Dance music video was shot. She finally left him after he doubted that she would make it big, and she vowed that she would. This was obviously not the support Gaga wanted. She needed someone to believe in her, just like...
No, you don't need someone to believe in her. Now, the host is saying this because they're just romanticizing the moment, but in reality, Lady Gaga breaking up with her boyfriend over that isn't really a thing to her music career. She was going to be great with or without him, so this whole like, oh, she got revenge on Luke. No, not really, no. Either she was going to be a trash musician or not.
...in herself. The Fame was released on August 19th of 2008, and that was the beginning of the rest of Gaga's career. The album and the tracks on it immediately took off. They all reached #1 in at least 3 countries.
Look at all of these numbers here. 4-time platinum, 9-time platinum, 8-time platinum in Canada. So a lot of it is to do with how they probably created the music as far as the sonics of it. Look at America, 3 times platinum. Yeah, we don't play that over here.
And the album even won Best Dance Electronica Album at the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards. So yes, clearly she proved Luke wrong. And the lady now was a Grammy-winning artist. During the New Kids on the Block live tour, which lasted from 2008 to 2010, Gaga made appearances at select venues in North America. In 2009, Gaga was the opening act for the Pussycat Dolls' Doll Domination Tour. Right after this is when she headlined her worldwide The Fame Ball Tour, from March to September of 2009. So while on tour, she wrote new songs for the Fame Monster. This album was an EP and released on November 18th of 2009, featuring 8 new songs. From her album, her tracks kept hitting all-time highs and breaking records. The video for Bad Romance became the most watched video YouTube in 2010.
And that's hard to believe nowadays, knowing that all these fake views and bots were happening.
It also ended up being the award-winning Best Female Pop Vocal Performance and Best Short-Form Music Video at the 53rd Grammys, where the Fame Monster won the Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Album. At the 2010 MTV Video Music Awards, she won 8 awards from 13 nominations, including Video of the Year for Bad Romance.
And again, knowing what we know now about the music industry, this is still hard to believe.
awards, she also wore her infamous meat dress. Lest us never forget the meat dress. Talk about making history in an iconic way. With this album, she went on her second tour, the Monster Ball Tour, which ran for a year and a half from November 2009 to May 2011.
Why would you do a year and a half tour if you're doing really well? That's confusing. I don't know why you would do that.
This tour also broke records in true Gaga style. It was the biggest tour ever by a debut headlining artist. It was also the highest grossing tour by a debut headlining artist. Over the next few years, she released 4 more studio albums. Born This Way, released in 2011. Art Pop, released in 2013. A collaborative jazz album with Tony Bennett titled...
This is where I got introduced right here. The Tony Bennett Cheek to Cheek album. This, for me, proved all that shit she was doing in school mattered. I didn't care about none of them suits. I didn't care about that funky ass dress. I didn't care about none of that shit. Them relationships, none of that. The taking off the clothes. This was the album that did it for me. So this proved to me that she was legit about all of what she's doing. The big tours didn't matter to me. The rah-ahs, I didn't care about none of that. When this came out, I was like, oh yeah, where you been? What the fuck you been doing? You've been wasting time.
Titled Cheek to Cheek, which was released in 2014, and Joanne, released in 2016. A bit more on the personal side of things, in February of 2015, she was engaged to Taylor Kinney, her boyfriend of about 4 years. The pair split in July of the same year, with Gaga saying it was because of her career. More recently,
I'm starting to think it's not the career Lady Gaga, I'm just saying.
In October of 2018, she became engaged to Christian Carino, a talent agent after the pair had been dating for about 2 years.
A talent agent? It's not against her, but why would a talent agent try to marry Lady Gaga? Like, if I was a talent agent, I would not try to marry Lady Gaga. That seems like a conflict of interest.
There was also a reinvention of Lady Gaga's image at the wake of Art Pop's disappointing receival. Instead of the crazy costumes and wigs and so on, she went through a 6-month period of reinvention. From then on, she's been the classic, beautiful, and elegant Lady Gaga we all know and love in 2018.
Where have you been, Lady Gaga?
With her acting background from Lee Strasberg, back when she was just Stephanie, she had auditioned for parts in New York City's acting scene, but didn't get any roles. She did, however, get a small cameo role in an episode of Season 3 of The Sopranos as a high school student. Now, as Lady Gaga, she played and won awards for her roles on American Horror Stories in Season 5 and 6. Most recently, in 2018, Gaga...
So we can't say she's a singer turned actress. She's been an actress. She's been an actress.
...acted alongside Bradley Cooper in a remake of the 1937 film A Star is Born. She and Bradley co-wrote and produced 19 of the songs on the 34-song track for the movie.
I want to see that movie. That movie looked good. I just hated the theatrics of it, but the story looks interesting.
It was quoted by Billboard in 2018, having told the Hollywood Reporter Actress Roundtable about her feelings towards the role. She said, "I felt really excited and really ready for this part. It was a sanctuary of trust, and so when I saw that trust with Bradley, I said, okay, I'm going to have to become someone that I do not have complete control over." And while she loved playing Allie, she did say, "I still feel like I'm recovering from playing this role." In 2015, Lady Gaga performed the U.S. national anthem at the Super Bowl 50. 2 years later, in 2017, she was the headlining act for the halftime show, where she had lit up drones in an aerial performance for the first time ever at a Super Bowl halftime show. This almost broke the record for the most viewership ever for a halftime show, where more people were watching Gaga than the actual game. In 2017,
well, that's the case for most Super Bowls. If you're a football fan, you're there for the football.
Lady Gaga had a documentary put out on Netflix titled Gaga, 5'2". Throughout her career, Lady Gaga has been an LGBTQ advocate and has come out as bisexual years ago, while she was still with Luke Carl at the time.
Okay, there it is. I was trying to figure it out. Like, lady, it's not the men. Ma'am, you're not really straight. Like, you tried to be straight. That's what it was.
She has also been very open about her love of being androgynous. And of course, there was a time when fans...
It's not the career. Like, she kept saying it was the career. It's not the career. You're just not straight.
even thought maybe she was a hermaphrodite, which has now been concluded as a rumor. Gaga not only helps LGBTQ communities, but supports other causes as well. Gaga created a lipstick with MAC Cosmetics to raise funds towards the MAC AIDS Fund. Though all is bright now for Lady Gaga, it hasn't always been an easy rise to the top. Lady Gaga has been very transparent with her PTSD that came from having been raped at 19 years old.
Oh,
she then went through
19. What did they say was going on at 19? I think they said she was in college at the time.
extensive therapy to help her heal from the trauma. In light of this, she spent a lot of time and dedicated many performances to people, and women in particular, who have suffered from sexual assault. So if you're not convinced yet that Lady Gaga is the queen of pop, literally, she was even given this title in 2011 by Rolling Stones magazine. Gaga has been in the music industry for over a decade now, grinding every step of the way. And
it's funny how she says over a decade and the girl learned piano at 5. But very interesting story. I think most of that story is going to teach us that, like, the things that she was up against, because I didn't even know about the assault. She tried to leave that at the end, but that's actually a very important, triggering, pinpoint, career-changing trajectory movement that we need to explain here. But the point is that amidst all of that, she still wanted to sing. Like, she had to figure out how to, be a kid. She moved to New York. Being in New York, you had to deal with the Rough Riders and Dipset. And they was all in New York. She was in school, and then when she went to school, it didn't really work out. And then her parents kind of made her, kind of sink or swim. It was like, hey, you either take this serious or we got to figure out something else. And amidst all of that, she still wanted to sing. She went through like 3, 4, 5 boyfriends, had a crazy traumatic experience, and then amidst all of that, had to figure out how to get these weirdos to create for her ideas, celebrate the weirdos, meaning like the people who have these like crazy ideas in their head. She had to make those a reality, make music with these people, meet with these executives, fly back and forth to all these places, and then at the same time still just be a sane person with the trauma she went through. So I say all that to say, a lot of y'all think you can just get up on stage and sing your little ditty bop because you used to sing in school. No. There's some shit going on with some of your favorite musicians, and they don't talk about it because they don't have to. Like, for example, I learned most of that with Lady Gaga through this video, right? But a lot of what she talked about isn't so heavy-handedly put in the music like you would see like a rapper who committed a crime when he was a teenager. Like, you don't necessarily need to know all of that for you to listen to her music. So if you want to be a musician and you care about all these personal things, and then you start putting it in your music and then you get a negative response, just know that you really weren't in the music industry for the music like she was. She was willing to sacrifice all of that, all her boyfriends, all these other people. She didn't really care about none of that shit. She wanted the music to come out, and she was willing to network with who she had to network with. She was willing to date who she had to date, and she had to do all that stuff. As much as we'd like to say that this is a very nice, pleasant lady, she probably was a fucking go-getter. She was probably a hot rod in terms of like making decisions, because again, all of this was on the name of Lady Gaga. She's not no rapper in a group. She's not signed to no extra label. She dropped off from Def Jam, which means they probably tried to give her some kind of like restrictions or guardrails with her creativity so that they can hit their bottom line, and she rejected it. And it goes to show you what kind of person you have to be a Lady Gaga. A lot of you think you are her because you wear the outfit, or maybe you're cute and you pick a little loud song on TikTok and you twirl in the mirror. But no, when it's time to really show up in the meat dress, you're not that girl. So let's get into the last clip of the day, and then we'll get a little bit more understanding on how these tours work from a technical perspective, so that way we can see how Lady Gaga was able to pull all that off, how all these people like Ticketmaster and Live Nation are able to pull all this off amidst not paying the artists.
It just turned 10:50 p.m. on a warm September night when the band returns to the USANA Amphitheater stage southwest of Salt Lake City for an encore. Though they make it seem spontaneous, the move is, of course, planned, and the song had, of course, already been picked. It's the perfect send-off that will leave the crowd buzzing and keep the band from violating the venue's strict 11 p.m. curfew. But as the show ends and the audience makes its way to the exits, another meticulously choreographed and time-sensitive show begins, one with far less fanfare. The tour's next stop is Ball Arena in Denver, 522 miles or 840 kilometers away, and that concert starts in exactly 21 hours. So now it's all hands on deck to get the band, their set, and their double-digit crew to Colorado on
double-digit crew. See, and this is like, I know this because fortunately for me, I was blessed by my parents to go through formal education for music and go to college and attend a marching band and all that stuff, and like see how you travel with a group of people, 2 buses with equipment, and feed them and then house them and then get them back home safely and then sign waivers and stuff. I got to see all that stuff. So now when I see, or not what I see, but when I have conversations with people about like throwing shows and going on tours, it's a conversation that they're not even willing to have, because some people see this and they're like, oh yeah, my family do this with their family reunion. They get on buses. It's like, no. Your family reunion isn't 25 people who are contractually obligated. Okay, that's your cousin and aunties. They drunk. They want to drive a certain way. They brought their own snack. No. That's a family. What you're looking at is a situation that went from a song that was in your head to now a damn near circus act enterprise that needs to move state to state and get on time, set up and break down, right? I was able to do this in DC and Maryland on a small scale. So I'll say from Baltimore to DC or Baltimore to Virginia. I'll say that was probably the biggest distance I've done independently, right? When you start thinking of distances like this, you got to start thinking of like hotels, certain paths, traffic times. Like you can't play any games with the technicality of a tour at that point, which goes to show you that, again, it has nothing to do with music. You now have to know all of this stuff on top of you being an amazing musician. And so if you want to have like, that's why I was like Lady Gaga doing that 1.5 year long tour. It's like, what kind of show was that? And then were you moving things around? There was a big event when Kanye was, I think, putting out the Ye album. It was either that or Yeezus. It was one of them, but he was mentioning how during the tour, they had a TV screen crack on the way there. And so they had to basically find a way to get a new TV and like fix it all and stuff like that. So it'd be the difference between like having the giant, perfect looking image on your stage and then that one black screen pops up in the middle, ruining the whole shot, the visuals. Everybody on TikTok's talking about it. All that shit that doesn't matter to music suddenly becomes important, right? And so this path that they're making from the USANA amphitheater to the Ball Arena has to be perfect. Has to be perfect. Otherwise, you need insurance, which costs money. You need backup equipment, which costs money, and it's extremely expensive.
Time. Really, this process of getting the band and company from Salt Lake to Denver began a few hours ago when the tour manager headed into their backstage office along with the venue's promoter, carrying records.
There's that Ticketmaster. The box office is closed, but guess where you can buy some
of the night's box office receipts to hash out the money splits from ticket and merch sales to utilities and even clean towel fees before coming to a final settlement. While an unspectacular process of crossing T's and dotting I's, it's this step that makes the tour possible and really more than anything else fuels the music economy today. The USANA Amphitheater, after all, holds a maximum of 20,000 guests. That's 20,000 potential ticket sales, of which the band will receive an already agreed upon split somewhere in the ballpark of 85%.
Right. So on a $100 ticket, they make $85 per ticket. And then the rest of that will go into possibly, the venue, promoter, and all that other stuff. Hopefully the artist is not also managed by the venue, promoter, ticket master people.
Once the money's settled and the band's finished, though.
Oh, look at this equipment. Like, all right, just this snapshot alone, that big ass box under the stage right there, how much you think that weighs? And what truck you putting that in? This big ass piece of equipment they're carrying, bro has a walkie-talkie on his back, which probably has a charging station. There's probably a cable needed for that cable, that coil that's going up to his ear, which is an in-ear monitor, that of which if it gets disabled or frayed, you're going to have to replace that. Wow.
All attention focuses on the loadout.
And then you get up there on the stage, you got the drum set platform, you got the mics, you got all the stands, all the boxes and travel cases that goes with it. And then the extra platforms they need, the case to make adjustments. Some stages are different shapes and sizes and weights. You got to figure out what's going to go on the stage and what's off the stage and what's going to move.
To be playing venues like the USANA Amphitheater and Ball Arena, the band has to be big, and big bands tour with big staffs.
Just like Live Nation is pushing.
This group, like most touring groups of its size, is broken into 3 groups. There's the A party, made up of the artists and their inner circle, the B party, made up of the band, dancers, and backup vocalists.
Okay, whoa, this is actually going to be pretty cool.
And the C party size is broken into 3 groups. There's the A party.
Okay, so we got the A party. That's me and you. Me and you, we sitting in the green room right now having drinks, and we wrote our song and we chilling and we're waiting for the show to start, right? We practicing our set, maybe running over our dance moves.
Made up of the artists and their inner circle, the B party, made up of the band, dancers, and backup.
The band dancers is the B party. So that's like the background people. They're like their own clique, because actually your band and dancers and performers are usually people you've paid. They're contractually obligated to be there. They're not your friends. They're not your homeboy. They're not your entourage. That's party A up there. That's like your mom, your cousin, your manager, because he knows your life and stuff like that. Maybe your wife or your boyfriend and things like that. The band, that's why I was like, Lady Gaga dating her manager and her producer and stuff. I was like, ooh, what are you doing? Right? Your band, the dancers and the performers. I think Jennifer Lopez dated a dancer one time. Like you shouldn't do that. Like you shouldn't do that. They work for you.
Vocalists, and the C party, or the crew, from guitar techs to pyrotechnic specialists.
So the crew are the people that actually set up the stage and stuff like that. It's like dating one of them. Like everybody has their role, everybody has their position. This diagram right here really lays out what it should look like for a large band.
To maximize overall efficiency and the comfort of some, each party's taking a slightly different path to Denver. For the A party, it's off the stage, and depending on timing, grabbing something to eat or a shower, then heading straight north in hired Suburbans to the Atlantic Aviation FBO at Salt Lake City International Airport, where a chartered jet is waiting.
So when we get done with the show, you and I, we get off the stage and we grab some Chick-fil-A or some Panda Express or some Burger King or some Cookout, and then we go up north to the nearest airfield where we have rented a private jet.
For the rest of the onstage talent, the turnaround is nearly just as quick. Dancers, background vocalists, and additional band members load onto tour buses that, depending on...
So this was me in college. This is how we traveled. Not with the trailers in the back, but we had like big, coach buses like this. And we would have all our equipment and stuff on the bus and stuff like that. And maybe like a couple cars driving along with the entourage of staff and stuff like that.
The configuration that the tour manager settled on months prior can carry up to 12 people spread across 2 aisles of triple stacked bunks. They're off the stage and out the door quick, but won't be seeing the other side of the Rockies until they wake up the next morning. For the C party, what they brought out and put together only hours earlier now needs to be returned into their cases and rolled back into their trailers in a precisely efficient order before they too hit the road.
And this is why people were mad at like bigger artists back in the day, where they'd be like, man, I feel like that they're getting better treatment than me and stuff like that. Well, it's because they're important. And so people have their roles and their layers and stuff like that. Like you can act like you want Michael Jackson to ride in the bus with you on the way there, but we're not doing that.
Under the oversight of production and stage managers, guitar techs carefully pack up guitars and riggers carefully dismantle the set. With the turnaround being so sharp, roadies working on the tour are joined by a hired set of local stagehands who help pack out everything from the band's audiovisual assets to the tour manager's office onto the trailers backed up against.
And that can be tricky too, because local work may not have the same quality or standard of work that you expect, right? They might ding up your equipment. They might be a little rougher with things than you. So it's a catch-22 where like you pay for the work or you can, bank on the ecosystem.
Backstage. Once the venue's cleared, the C party, like the B party a couple hours ahead, jumps onto tour buses headed east, where showers and clean towels await them at the arena. And now
at the arena,
time crunch shifts from the crew to its drivers. None of the truck or bus drivers saw the band's show in Utah. They were sleeping. In fact, not until the show's end did those who were driving the B party even check out of their hotels. And only after the show's conclusion did they begin their systems check, inspecting tires and timing belts before warming up the bus. They've waited until the very last minutes because their driving time is incredibly precious.
Yeah, you never want your driver to be tired. You super take care of your driver. They got to be well fed, well rested, alert, happy, satisfied. They're super important.
They can only drive for 10 hours before they take a required 8-hour rest period, and with the electronic logging devices built into their dashboards and tracking the bus's every move, there's simply no cheating the 10-hour limit. Facing down 500 plus miles on the Rocky Mountain Range, Denver stretches the limits of what's possible.
Why are there bullet holes?
When adding in stops, morning rush hour traffic, and the potential of anything unpredictable. Move the bus too early, and the next night's concert might get stuck on the side of the road short of the destination in Denver. Now, to an outsider, the loadout process might look chaotic, and the pace of the tour may seem unsustainable or unmanageable. But though grueling and exhaustingly complicated, these massive nationwide tours function remarkably smoothly considering the variety of variables. And they have to. There's too much on the line for them not to. This is where bands make their money, and this—
Woo! Look at that. Look at that there. How much power do you think that uses? How many cables you think you got to connect to make that make sense? Right? Y'all be playing Minecraft on like hard. This is real life.
This is where deadlines are their absolute toughest. A band can't simply reschedule in the middle of a tour during the middle of the busy summer season. To make these tours run smoothly then, their managers leave no stone unturned. To minimize the chaos and limit potential mistakes, the band's tour began perhaps a month or two prior on the West Coast and had been in the works for upwards of a year. Knowing that dates fill quickly during the summer, their agent began negotiating fees and revenue splits with interested venues in the fall or winter prior, passing back and forth drafts of deal memos like these before ultimately coming to an agreement. With the concert dates penciled in and a spot to rehearse for a few days prior identified somewhere in Southern California, the tour manager then sent their dates along to truck and bus leasing companies to go back and forth on price and configuration that best matched the band's needs. And with the venues locked, stage managers and production managers began assembling advance sheets that outline every last technical detail about the venue, from bus and trailer parking to office space and AV capabilities and hookups that the tour could possibly need to know beforehand.
Nice. And I think this is going to be important for a lot of musicians to see and be exposed to, because we think we just pull up like these club experiences, these little rap venue, little shows you doing. No, bro, that's not the business. All right. These little hand over hand, paper bag, cash. No. If you want to get your metadata read properly and get your streaming royalties, and you want to get your marketing down, and you want to get a cut of that Verizon QR code that people are scanning, you need to be this meticulous.
Months ago, the tour manager also sent along a rider to each of the touring party's hotels.
Months ago.
Essentially, a sheet of requirements that spans from ensuring late checkout or day rooms to asking about whether or not there's any construction happening nearby. If meals are to be eaten at the hotel, dietary restrictions are communicated through this document, as are allergies or ETAs, or even how room keys should be passed.
And this is something that I think many artists, they don't realize that they have leverage to, because they don't view themselves as important. Like the fact that artists aren't even pissed about the ticket sale position that they have goes to show you why something like this seems like a big ask, because the record label or the venue would cover this cost and then take it out of your profits. But this is something you can leverage as an artist because you have the power of the product, but you'll sell it, you'll exploit it by, signing away your rights. But the other side of this is that why do a lot of artists and people not expect this for themselves? Why is this not the bare minimum of treatment that you expect, right? You'll see people like, I'll see people with a doctorate, or like they'll be super, super cool people and nice people, and they like downplay themselves intentionally to just look nice to people who can't get access to the things that they deserve. I don't know why they do that, but they do it all the time. So like you'll look at this situation of a writer in a hotel, and then some people will say that the musician is being bougie or entitled, but in actuality, all of that stuff was basic. Like, is there construction? Do I have my dietary needs? And will it be safe and clean and stuff like that? Like that should be basic. But we think of musicians and artists today as just regular ass people, like they're one of us, and it starts to treat them that way, and you start to devalue what it is that they're doing, which is why you're okay going to a concert not knowing that the artist is getting probably like 65% of your ticket sale
packaged and distributed. If the crew has an off day, it's important to find out what the bus parking nearby looks like and what's nearby for the crew to do. And if the band's famous enough, a likely scenario given the size of this tour, a rider will inform the hotel that access to back doors and service elevators will be required. These documents often run pages long and aren't exclusive to hotels either, as tour managers will send ahead writers for the venue's backstage setup, from food to layout, as well as a technical writer spelling out the AV and rigging needs the show requires.
And like all of this stuff, because we used to look at this stuff in college and start to design this, and you know what people told us was that this is doing too much. They told us that you don't need to do this is not important. And the reason that's problematic is because it doesn't develop the habit of understanding this, reading this, and developing something like this. But it also teaches the industry to not respect it. It teaches everybody to think that if a musician or a band comes to your venue, that you shouldn't be expected to give this kind of service.
Though sent to each hotel and venue long in advance, these writers are dynamic documents that change and evolve along with the tour, so managers will update and resend writers weeks and even days before their arrival. While the artists would have arrived at Centennial Airport in the early hours of the morning and quickly transferred to their hotel, the rest of the tour's day begins around 9 a.m., laying in their bunks as their bus comes to a rest beside the loading dock of Denver's Ball Arena. Upon completing the 8-hour drive through Wyoming, the driver hooks the bus up to a provided 240-volt connection to deliver power without idling the engine, and joins the tour's other bus and truck drivers for the short walk across the street to the Spring Hill Suites Hotel, where day rooms are booked, to get their legally required rest before driving onward after the concert that night. The above-average 8-hour drive makes this day a particular challenge. Everything must run perfectly to get the show built on time. The first people into the building are the tour's leadership: the production manager, production coordinator, head of security, lead rigger, and potentially others.
The potentially others is usually like the artists and maybe, people who are part of this design process.
Their first stop is the catering room, where a local company set up breakfast over the hours prior. Next, the team meets with the venue's management to conduct a walkthrough and plan out the day's activities. They then work their way through the backstage, posting this day sheet throughout to give a rundown of key moments through the day, and also labeling different rooms for different purposes. They'd need a production office, where the management would set up their desks, dressing rooms for both the lead artists and their supporting acts, a storage room for empty road cases and extra equipment, a wardrobe room for the costume department to get their work done.
And usually when I've seen this happen too, the team that's coming in, they have labels for all these doors. So it's not like they're like reconstructing every room. Like usually you just kind of like empty the room and make space. And then they'll have like a printer or a labeler that'll be like, okay, this is the artist room. This is where the dancers are going to be. This is where we're going to store equipment. And you just kind of like stick it on the doors and keep things moving.
And more depending on the size and scope of the tour. In addition, they put up maps and directions to these different temporary rooms and key permanent spots like the venue's shower rooms, given that nearly everyone lives out of the tour bus. Nobody should need to know where they are. In fact, through the fatigue, many of the tour's members might genuinely forget. Also early in the order of operations is making the final decision on the placement of the stage. In North America, most large concerts occur in indoor arenas otherwise occupied by NHL and NBA hockey and basketball teams, as is the case with Denver's Ball Arena. Given that traditional stages have, at best, 270 degrees of line of sight, these tours only sell a portion of the 360 degrees of seats surrounding the stage. The exact number can be altered. Therefore, if the concert hasn't sold out, management might decide to bring the stage forward to kill some seats and make the venue appear more full, while if the concert has sold out, they do their best to push the stage back to give more seats to sightline and fit more on the floor, allowing them to sell additional tickets. But they'd have to make this decision quickly because they're on the clock and the setup has to start quick. The arena has no stage, no lights.
And look at that. And so, again, little TikTok girl making music in your bedroom. You could do this, but do you see how much you have to be in control of? How much you have to think about? You have to turn this into your idea, your product, and you have to help these people do it successfully so that way they don't get hurt, they make the money they need, and they get the benefits, and everybody has a good experience, especially the fans.
No audio system, essentially nothing but an empty floor and some seats, while thousands upon thousands of people are expecting a concert in less than 10 hours. First in the order of operations is rigging. This is essentially the process of getting anything that hangs, be it lights, speakers, screens, prop pieces, or even the stage itself, up into the air. Typically a tour will include a lead rigger.
How much you think he gets paid? Boy, I'm not doing that job.
Or perhaps a few touring riggers who work with a far larger team of 20 to 40 local riggers to complete the incredibly time-sensitive setup process for a given concert. It starts with chalking out the floor, essentially marking the exact spot on the ground where a motor should hang above. The core of the rigging task involves using a combination of math and cables to hang chain motors in exact points from a grid of beams in the roof.
I recently did a show where they rigged a giant cross to hang from the ceiling for an Easter performance.
More often than not, there is not a beam directly above the exact point where a motor is needed, so riggers hang two cables to bridge the gap between two beams. Knowing both the horizontal and vertical distance from a beam to their desired point, the Pythagorean theorem is used to quickly calculate the required length of rope along the third axis, and these lengths are marked on the floor with a standardized chalk diagram like this. They also mark out the length of rope needed to wrap around each beam, given inconsistency in width, and, if applicable, the length of a rope to hang beneath the connection of the two others. Finally, the exact point is marked with this symbol if it's up to a quarter-ton weight, and this for a half-ton, full-ton, and 2 tons, respectively.
And so they have to know these formulas so that we don't die. So lights don't just fall on people's heads and things don't get loose, and maybe some of the chains might not be strong enough to hold certain weights and stuff like that. So they have to know this stuff, which again goes to show you that you need to pick your team, man. Pick your rigging team, know what's going on. You probably need to know some of these formulas to help, have that conversation with your team.
On a typical arena tour, there can be anywhere between a few dozen to over 100 rigging points that need to be assembled, so quickly, the team's upriggers harness up and head out onto the beams above, while the downriggers start laying out motors and other equipment next to the relevant points. Once in place, each uprigger lets down a rope to which their downrigger ties equipment to be pulled up. First, a burlap sack is wrapped around the beam to soften the edges, then ropes are fastened around the beam, connected, and finally the chain motors are attached in the exact desired point regardless of the variance in overhead grid from arena to arena. Precision and safety are absolutely crucial given that within a matter of hours, both the general public and some of the world's most recognizable artists will be standing below. The margin for error is essentially zero. But to provide a standardized experience in a non-standard set of venues, rigging is crucial. With anchor points set, the work of assembling lighting and audio trusses can go on, along with setting up the stage itself. Once each element is constructed on the ground, the motors above slowly pull them up into place.
Wow, that looks crazy. So basically they build all of this on the bottom and then it just slowly lifts to the top and then it's suspended there locked in place above everybody. That's crazy. So I wonder how much this would all cost for a band. Like they're breaking down and setting this up in multiple venues over and over and over again.
Also allowing the tour to hoist them to a common height regardless of the venue's ceiling height. Typically, and especially with the late start in Denver, this entire process needs to be completed within 4 or 5 hours by early afternoon. Each department then takes a brief break for the lunch provided by the local caterers. While the tour always strives to carry everything they need for a given show with them, reality often gets in the way. That's why the ensemble of hired local labor always includes runners whose job it is to head out into the city to grab last-minute necessities, be it something as simple as backstage snacks from Walmart or as crucial as fresh guitar picks from Guitar Center. But all the big tasks should be completed by around now, mid-afternoon, because that's when the artist arrives from their hotel and attention focuses on fine-tuning. The sound check is
So this is usually when I do, I play in an orchestra and they have a fairly big production there too. And when I arrive, or the musicians in general arrive, this is usually where, yeah, like you said, we show up and they're doing the sound check and everything's in place. Fortunately for us, we don't have to break down everything and leave. So it's probably like an easier setup, but generally, yeah, there's people there probably like a good 2 hours before we get there, working hard as hell to get everything ready.
Crucial milestone, as it's the first test by the artists themselves of the day's setup. They play a few songs, both for calibrating the onstage audio system, which is crucial for making sure they can hear themselves properly, and testing the audience's audio system, which needs to be fine-tuned both to the venue and the style of music. As afternoon transitions into evening, the countdown to doors looms large. The tour's head of security meets with the venue security to talk through some key elements. They're in charge of passes, so they'll communicate which get access where, who can go on the floor, backstage, the VIP room, or even to the artist's room. For the security working the stage, they'll also talk through likely moments of artist-audience interaction and what security support is needed.
Yeah, like when West Side Gun go boom, 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 the security need to know that that's not a real gun.
The artist is going to pull audience members up on stage, for example, security likes to know in advance. And perhaps most importantly, the tour security communicates likely audience demographics and behavior.
People not gonna like to hear that. Likely audience demographics and behavior. Shout out the Lil Baby concert. NBA Youngboy concert.
Much better than local security the proclivities of their fans and the likelihood of rowdiness, barrier crushing, mosh pits, and other potential security risks.
Yeah, and it's funny, like You would think like mosh pitting and stuff would have been a rock thing, but nope, it was actually hip hop that had the biggest deadly mosh pit lately. Shout out Travis Scott and his debacle.
But finally, it's time. The lighting department switches on a pre-programmed pre-show lighting configuration, audio starts miking up the artists, security gets into place, and everyone else finally gets their first moments of calm since Salt Lake City as the doors open, the concert begins, and the tour starts its unbelievable 24-hour cycle once again.
All over again.
Clearly, given that you're still here, you enjoy learning about logistics. So do I, of course, which is why I was recently fascinated to learn about what went into the design and construction of the Twin Towers in New York through Neo's video on the subject.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, logistics for getting a tour done is very, very, very logistical. But yeah, it's expensive. You have to be very particular. You got to know what you're doing. Somebody said Beyonce to cuss her team out on tour. Yeah, because she probably saw what they didn't see. And on another hand, as he mentioned, you're usually working with a mix of your rigging team and the local rigging team, because you're not going to have a 100-person rigging team moving with you from state to state to state. So sometimes, like I've seen it with my band director in college, where like some local venue just has no clue what they're doing as far as the standards you expect or the standards of the industry. And so, yeah, you probably got to correct them. And urgently enough, you probably had to cuss somebody out to do it. So, but that's it for me today. These are our topics, and I hope you guys learned a lot this week. We talked about discernment and how you can figure out what goes into who to work with, what music to make, what decisions to make, and also whether or not you're actually built to do this like Lady Gaga. So I want you guys to take that into consideration. Let me know in the comments whether or not you enjoyed this, what you learned, what was the biggest takeaway.